Now it's time for an introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery and fraud, about lies. Tell it by the fireside or in a marketplace or in a movie. Almost any story is almost certainly some kind of lie. But not this time. No, this is a promise. During the next hour, everything you'll hear from us is really true and based on solid facts.
Hey, do you want to know a secret that I didn't tell anybody, ever?
No.
Well, when I was walking the dog I had before Dwayne, this dog named Mr. T, because when he was a puppy, his hair was sticking up like in a mohawk. And you know how ducks fly home in a V? It's like a V shape when they get home.
Basically, I'm gonna tell you about my
And I was walking
delusions,
my dog, and
by which I mean
I looked up and there's a big V above me, and there's all these ducks flying back to the
I don't
home.
even know what a delusion is, but
Can I please get a beer?
And right when
They're
they
just-
flew above me,
Can't practice, can't practice.
things I know
I saw
are not true,
and they crashed into a big house.
practice, I can't.
The whole
but
V.
are very easy for me to convince myself.
And then they
are-
put
It
the
ain't about
ground,
that.
and they
At
just
all.
kind of curled up.
It ain't about that at all.
You
You're sitting in here, you're supposed to be the franchise player. And yet here we are,
Have you ever
talking about
seen
you
a
missing
mistake in
practice.
nature?
I really am
sitting
just
here,
testing
I'm
out
supposed to be
the
the
audio
franchise player.
Have you ever seen the
video
deal
about
with the
the
States?
camera.
We talking about practice. You understand me? Practice. Not a game.
Not a game.
Seems pretty good.
Not a game. Not the game you go out there and die for.
Okay.
Not the game
Stop
that I go out there and die for
Right? Play every weekend like it's your last, right? No, we talking about practice, man.
and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man.
Position. The problem if you're an
I
existing
mentioned
studio
last time, I
is
think,
you're not just paying
not
extra
really knowing
on a per subscriber basis for content. You're
what
not
that
getting
means,
paid extra
delusions.
by everyone else to sell your
So,
content. And
I'm gonna
Sony is
start
actually
by
very underrated
looking
in
that
this
up
regard.
so
Where
that we
Sony,
can
they just cut
all
a
be
deal
on
with
the same
Netflix a
page
little bit
about
ago,
what I'm
and
talking
they also
about.
got a deal with Disney, so they're keeping the window where like the first run on
Also
streaming will be on
experimenting
Netflix
with
and the second run will be on Disney, and they're double
having
dipping
something
on all their
playing
content,
in the background
and their
so that
content's like gold because
one,
all
you
these
can't hear
streaming
me.
services need it, and so not only is Sony not
Two,
wasting tons
I
of money
can't
on
hear myself.
buying content, they're making tons of money.
You're doing content, but yeah, you're doing some
idiosyncratic
content.
belief
Netflix,
or impression
you look
that
at what
is
they did,
firmly
which is
maintained
really
despite
shrewd, and
being
you've written a ton about it, but,
contradicted
you know,
by what is generally
they
accepted
banked
as
other
reality
people's content
or
for
rational
multiple years.
argument.
Then they really started
Typically a
making their
symptom
own.
of mental disorder.
And by the time everybody realized what was happening,
So yeah, I guess technically,
they had this
not
massive
even
lead. I
technically,
think
but literally,
Amazon's trying to catch up. They're going to spend $9 billion on the
They
MGM
are
library, which seems like it's
probably
maybe
delusions.
twice as much. The
except that
experts
it's
were
not
saying
firmly
as,
maintained.
You know, and it's like this
Um,
belated catch-up game where like, let's
It's
just
more
throw money
like
at
just
it. It's like
always
watching an
there
NBA
in the
team
back
be
of my
like,
head,
we
depending
need a center.
on
Let's throw money at Andrew Bogut, and they just kind of
what
go. So it
situation
just
am I
seems like
in, you
Amazon
know?
and Apple
If I'm
can always
looking at an
rely
animal,
on the deep checkbooks to
the
find out
animal
when they need it.
delusion is there.
Yeah, they have lots
you
of
know?
money, which always helps. The other
If
thing is,
I'm
given you think about Amazon's
anywhere
business,
near
they want you to
cars,
subscribe to Prime.
the
Subscribe to
traffic
Prime, you
delusion
spend more
is
money.
there.
Like you just use Amazon as your default for shopping, and anyone can think about just the U.S.
You know,
Anyone can
if I'm
subscribe
in a
to
new
Prime.
house
Anyone,
or
it's like
any
a service that's available
unfamiliar
to everyone, and it's available to everyone
living
in not in a
situation,
zero-sum way. In a way, you can shop on
product
local
placement
retailer,
delusion
and you can
is
also
there.
shop on Amazon. And so in that
But they're not
sense,
firmly
them
maintained
acquiring
necessarily,
content that
and
makes their service more
it's just
attractive
there while I know
aligns
that
in
it's
a way that AT&T, where they were in a
delusional.
zero-sum
So,
game with Verizon and T-Mobile, it never made
I
sense
don't
to
know.
have differentiated content because that content needed to be
regardless, I
everywhere.
just
So whereas
wanted
Amazon
to
can
get
credibly
that out of the
say,
way.
oh, yeah, we're going
I
to
also
acquire
mentioned
subscription
something about
content
the
that's gonna
quality
be available to the entire
of
market
the video,
and is
audio,
going to accrue to other
and
businesses. Now, you can make the case it's still too much and they're wasted too much money on it,
ultimately,
but at least it is
I
a
decided
business
that doesn't
argument
matter.
that makes sense given the nature of
worst
the
case
business they're trying to
scenario,
drive. unlike
is
AT&T, which
I
you know,
need it to be
it honestly never
better
makes sense at
quality
all.
than it
Not-
is, but
not
that would
for a single
actually be a
moment.
good thing because
Can we do merger speed round? Most likely merger for you.
You
What's
know.
the next one?
there's a reason
Oh,
for me to
Everyone
need
says
it to be
Comcast and Universal.
higher
Yeah,
quality
well, I
than
think
it
in the
is.
entertainment industry,
Best case scenario, no one ever
Comcast,
sees or hears
Universal,
this, and I
would also
figure
say
it all
that,
out without
are both sort of just sitting out there. Universal
having to go
particularly
this
is in a
route,
pretty
but
weak position. I think that
we'll
makes
see.
a lot of sense. To
Anyway, this
combine
first
with
episode is going to
this
be a
new
little bit of
Discovery bit. Obviously, I think
background,
that's spin-off of the news
history,
channels, because there will be some overlap there. But to
just
me, that
kind of getting you on the same page of like how we got to this point,
critically don't have a broadcast network.
and then I'll go
And I
into
still
the
think it'd be
individual
very
delusions
difficult
in
to
later
combine
episodes.
CBS and NBC, for example, or ABC or whatever. So the fact that they don't, to me, makes that the most obvious.
Let's
sort of,
cut it there.
Even if even if it's truncated, I guess.
So like,
But I
I
would
could
be.
collect footage all day. That's gonna be
It seems
easy.
like it would be the biggest event
This is the
since
hard
the
part,
Big Bang.
trying to
as far as any human is
describe
considered.
these delusions
I
in
guess I would
a
want to
way
see what
that
it's like. I would want to see how people
makes
react.
sense. And just talking in general.
I'd be curious
I don't like
what I
talking
would
as it
think
is,
about,
so talking to
like what
myself.
I'd be thinking about.
Well, we
when
used
I
to think
realized-
about this during the 80s, right?
You
When
know,
it
is
seemed very possible that Russia and
not
America might just blow each other up.
My
Used to think
style,
a lot
my
about, wow, what
thing.
would happen? How much notice would
especially
we have
when
before we all blew
you
up?
know,
Be
This is
5
an
minutes?
This is an
You know, it's
interesting
hard
thing.
enough
I'm
driving
49
around.
and you're 50.
are
I'm
they
51.
listening to
51,
the
okay,
thoughts?
2 years.
You know, and now I'm
But
just
even those 2 years make a
broadcasting
big
it out
difference
to
on this issue.
the world.
Because by the
you know?
time, like,
So,
say,
1, 4, 0.
Thing, but you're not sure
So we
if they
said
actually
this
have any
first
money.
episode was going to be
Oh, no, well, I mean, they have
background.
money. They're currently the highest.
I guess we should
paid
probably
salary
start
in
back
MLS.
in
But we don't know. I'm sorry, I
1999,
misspoke.
give or
I'm
take,
saying we
20
don't know.
20 years
In
ago.
the age of the symbolism, I'm fascinated by
20,
it. I don't know
21
if this is
years ago,
accurate, but I'm
22
saying it
years
just
ago.
feels accurate. As Miami becomes
the aliens are fucking great.
No, I know.
Superman's great.
But
E.T.
then-
was nice.
But then when we did the blockbusters in the 90s, it was like, what if the aliens weren't nice?
Yeah.
And then it
Well,
flipped,
yeah.
and it's like, all right, now the aliens are declaring war on us.
So it's
And that
1999.
became a cottage industry. But
I'm
aliens have been in our life in this pop culture way,
12,
and it just seemed like that's
13,
what they were
early
going to be,
10s.
like this go-to for pop culture
And
stuff that people love. I never
all
thought
of a
we would
sudden,
actually have
across
to
the
deal with
country,
them.
there's a
Well,
huge
I guess I didn't
It's like,
think you'd have
oh,
to.
they're-
yo-yo
they're
boom.
actually, we have to like come up with
Where-
a plan for the weird aliens that are flying around
for
now.
whatever reason.
But
Yo-yos are the
seems as
biggest
though,
thing
like, I mean,
with
I don't know.
kids
This
my
might be
age.
like a. Like,
Right.
I often say this, how, like, although my politics are all over the place, I feel like in some ways I'm kind of fundamentally.
Most of you, if you're watching this,
I kind of want things
probably
to stay as they are. I'm
Yeah.
very hesitant about.
familiar
I'm
with
just,
yo-yos
it seems
today,
like
but
life is changing faster than I
for
can
those of you who are not,
accept it all the time. So by that argument, I
probably
should not
picture
want it.
yo-yo.
Because if aliens suddenly enter
Something
into
like
our
this.
world, it's going to be some significant changes. We're gonna have to, I have some weird conversations. However, I guess part of me
Maybe wood,
does want,
maybe plastic, probably in this shape,
like,
but maybe
if there are aliens, I want them to show up in my lifetime. Like if
I don't know.
that
You'd be
can happen,
disappointed if they came out.
I should not want aliens. Because if aliens suddenly enter into our world, it's going to be some significant changes. We're gonna have to,
So a couple
I have some
interesting
weird
facts,
conversations.
or not.
However, I guess part of
Maybe
me
not interesting, maybe
does
not facts.
want.
They say
like,
that the
if there
yo-yo
are
is
aliens,
the
I want
oldest
them to show up in my
toy.
lifetime. Like,
Second oldest toy.
if
I'm not
that
sure
can
what
be
the oldest would
disappointed
be,
if
but
they
it's
came
one of the
100
oldest
years
toys ever
I
made.
guess I would
or
be
invented
like it
or
would
whatever.
be.
And they also say that
I think about this
it
a
was
lot. Like,
originally
a guy died the
a
day
weapon.
before 9/11 or whatever.
So, like,
And it's like it's interesting.
you throw it
to-
at
it'd
somebody,
be like, I
hits
guess
them
this
in
is
the
like
head,
sort of the larger question.
in theory, you can bring it back
Let's
to you.
say
Like I
the
said, I don't know if
world
either
is
of those are
going to
true,
end.
but
and it
that's
can
what they
end
say.
when you're 80.
Of course, that's
5
hundreds
years after you're dead.
or thousands of years ago.
What do you want? And here, Russia would be willing
So the plan
to
was
destroy itself.
to
like
basically
it seems
only
like
do
stakes are
the
obviously too high.
audio,
In fact,
either in
I
my
remember,
car
I think I was in
or
6th grade because my dad was very
not
proud
out
of
in
this.
the open. Like I said,
wrote something in 6th grade about
Bad
how
enough that I'm just giving
the
it all
only
to
problem would be as if
something
Syria got
that's
a nuclear weapon.
literally I know is
I don't think I
recording
knew
me
anything
because
about Syria in 6th
set
grade.
it up
I'm
to
sure
record
I
me.
couldn't have found it on the map. I have no idea what
Talking to
Newsweek
myself
article I
or
saw or something that prompted
all of
me to do
you
this. So I never worried
just
about
out there
the end of the world.
is
But like, I found that people just a
that
few
said,
years older than me really did.
I
I
might
think that
try
it was,
to
you know,
explain some of this
like the
on
first
location
couple
so
of
you
years
have
of the Reagan
something
administration, I
other
think
than just my voice.
made people kind of like seem scary. But you had to be aware of what was happening.
Miami, well, representing us when David Beckham initially unveiled Inter Miami, like they were granted expansion.
So where did we leave
released
off?
a video. Lionel Messi said, "Call me at some point. I might be interested." So Inter Miami has always had this possibility. They just have yet to execute on any of these big stars.
And that happens all the time. It happens. I think anybody who's ever had a story done on them has happened. Where it's like that you know, that you can't tell if the person is saying this kind of off the cuff, or if they're saying this, sort of half jokingly, or if they're talking about a whole bunch of things, and this is one thing they're also mentioning. It does sort of give this the documentary has the advantage of seeing the person say it, and you get a real sense of like how they meant it. Yeah.
All right, we talked enough about sports. It's time. America's on pins and needles. I can't believe it's an hour to get here. UFOs are real. I've been waiting to talk to you on this podcast. I've deliberately ignored talking to anybody else. We've done a lot of conspiracy stuff over the years on pods. I think that Malaysian flight went down. I think we did an emergency podcast. You love this stuff as much as I do. Under the radar the last year, so much shit was going over the last years. The Pentagon and everybody else has basically just admitted that UFOs exist, and they're
The world will end.
So we're in the late
Suddenly
90s,
and
and
painlessly.
yo-yos are the biggest thing
When you're 80,
ever,
and you can see it.
I'm in my early
Or
10s.
you can die, and 5 years
And-
later it will happen. And you'll never have to experience it.
I get into it, you know.
I probably
like
want to
everybody.
not experience it.
I'd want it.
I'm really okay, thanks. There's nothing to witness. I said as I looked back from the edge of the cliff. The old man looking down leant over the ridge. Just looked with a grin, as if a blessing had hit him. I slumped up the jut of the cliff. Just leave me alone. This is none of your business. I will, said the old man, but just one thing. What he said was
Okay,
so
so
he said, I lay right there onto the edge of the rock. Was ready to jump. I was ever so lost. And this gentleman stopped and said something I never forgot.
For billions of years since the onset of time, every single one of your ancestors survived. Every single person on your mum and dad's side successfully looked after and passed on to you life. What are the chances of that like? It comes to me once in a while. And everywhere I tell folk, it gets the best smile.
And then the old man walked away out of sight, till the sound of him hiking turned to the sound of silence. I just froze in a profound surprise, and from down on my pride I found a smile to my eyes. And for many days again I'll be passing the same cliff, and I lay right there onto the edge of the rock. I was ready to jump, I was ever so lost. But this gentleman stopped and said something I never forgot.
For billions of years since the outset of time, every single one of your ancestors survived. Every single person on your mum and dad's side successfully looked after and passed on to you life. What are the chances of that like? It comes to me once in a while. And every everywhere I tell folk it gets the best smile. For billions of years since the outset of time, every single one of your ancestors survived. Every single person on your mum and dad's side successfully looked after and passed on to you live. What are the chances of that like? It comes to me once in a while. And everywhere I tell folk it gets the best smile.
So I guess being in the car and establishing that I'm not really going to be able to record my voice.
It's about 90 degrees outside, sunny. It's not a cloud in the sky.
Anywhere else except here, I guess.
Walking around with a raincoat?
A good delusion to start with would be what I call the traffic delusion. So basically, I mean, oh man, how do you even start to get somebody to understand what's going on in your head when you have no idea what they understand, right?
Every day I'm trying to dodge a raindrop till I'm drained, or when the pain stops, it's opportunity. Back when all I had was my mom to raise a spoon at me and couldn't call my dad because there were no more days of unity. It came to my teens, which is why I never sit and think of quitting hitting trees. I'll be up nights wide, it was rarely ever white eyes. It was in a way too much for me to see a bright side. And still I wonder would it ever strike me down, because it most likely.
So the traffic delusion is essentially, all of these I guess are basically just some sort of ego, I'm different, I'm anything other than just one of billions of organisms on the planet. But in the particular of the traffic delusion, basically anytime I'm really tuned into this mindset of Truman Show living, I guess, it seems as though traffic gets completely intense, unreasonable. And sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. So this one it's basically impossible to illustrate, because if I did, it would be like sitting there and randomly a car will drive by, or you'll hear two cars in the background, and it's insignificant except for the fact that that car turning onto my block, right, is always specifically aligned with a certain thought in my head, right? So if I'm really in the traffic Truman Show delusion mindset, basically whatever I'm trying to think about or understand, a lot of other people out there are also trying to think about or understand, and for whatever reason it's a lot easier for them to understand it when they're, I don't know, tuned into my wavelength, so to speak. And I guess you have to be a certain amount of close for that to be possible. It's not necessarily just with cars, with traffic. Foot traffic also. I'll go in someplace when I'm in this this mindset and it's completely empty, and you know, every time one of those thoughts, the important ones, pop into my head, somebody will open the door, and you know, 2 minutes later, all of a sudden there's 10 people behind me in line, and I'm like, yo, just tell me, like, just tell me what it is that you're doing, you know? The more I but I'll die.
Sounds quite depressing when said so raw and direct, but it means don't hang yourself on a material life. But that gets dropped when I'm bucking a shopping day. Memento mori, memento mori. It's Latin and it says we must all die. But I try.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought, but essentially the traffic delusion is somehow the traffic is drawn to the thoughts in my head, you know? But unless I happen to, like I said, they're delusions. Like, I know that there's nothing between my radio station and my brain and other people tuning into that station, right? But they're delusions, and that's what this is about. It's about trying to tell you, I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna go. So, until next time, I'm gonna go ahead and end this because the battery is about to die, to be honest. Yeah, okay, bye.
Using the following, I'm going to show you A, how to con someone using their own greed, B, that you won't feel bad because they're trying to con you anyway, and C, taking their money.
That is a good question. Who knows if this will be the only interview I ever do, you know? It is the last one, those 40 seconds or so from the start of Orson Welles' film F for Fake. I just want to make sure that introduction got seen. It kind of, in a way, summarizes this project that you know, the reason you're interviewing me, if you want to call this an interview, so that people understand my perspective on the truth and fiction and storytelling and lies. I once had a professor. I went to school for film, but like the hands-off, you know, the history, theory, criticism, basically a literature degree, but for reading films. And I had a professor in a documentary class one time showed us a movie by Eric Rohmer, I believe is the director's name. Obviously, if you're a film fan, like, he's a big, important director from the 60s or 70s, I believe French New Wave, but I could be wrong. But he was not a documentarian, to my knowledge. He was a filmmaker, a director, a fiction filmmaker, and he showed us this film that was he had like I believe a season, spring, summer, winter season series of some sort. I can't remember the film offhand. It was a completely fiction actors acting film in a documentary class that he was trying to just prove some point about something. He was a very eccentric old, philosophical, psychological mind type guy as far as movies went, and he showed us this Rohmer film about basically some family going to stay at a beach house, and it has, it's kind of like a coming of age. Nothing really happens, sort of cinema veritas, or however that phrase goes. You turn on the camera and you just let life happen. And I guess that was his point, is that even in a fiction film, you have, the camera is going to capture what the camera captures, like it's documenting life. And this is sort of the opposite, I guess. So that 40 seconds is basically just to let you know that, everything that you may know about me through this YouTube series that, you stumbled across is not a lie, certainly not a lie, but not necessarily the truth. And I guess mostly if I could force, everybody on Earth to watch one movie, that might be it. Either that or Sunless by Chris Marker. Sans Soleil, or whatever the French name is. Without sun, I believe, is what it would translate to.
Talk about the best players.
All right, so
with KD especially,
this project is never going to get done if I just
Warriors thing really got held
collect footage and
as was this Brooklyn thing.
collect footage and collect footage, and now that
But in 17
hopefully
and 18,
I'll be able to actually edit
he outplayed
this.
LeBron in the 17 finals. In
I'm just
18,
gonna have to start.
Shamit face hits a three. All of a sudden it's 76-68, and it was one of those uh-oh moments because it happened in like a minute and a half.
As far as the
So
delusions,
76-68,
the
you're
next
just
one
going,
that's kind of easy to talk about would
God, and they
be
cut the
the
blood on the
animal
sideline, and
delusion.
you're like, oh God,
right.
Oh God, here we go. But the thing you talked about Giannis being diminished,
We'll just call
this
it
was
that,
the
the
rub with
animal,
him, right? Where it's like, what
pet
happens in a
delusion.
game?
This
that
one
could
has a very
basically decide your
specific.
season, and you're trading baskets with one of the best players in the league, and you can only go 1 or 2 from the free throw line every time.
Birth,
Which is exactly
beginning.
what happened.
I
The
know
reason
exactly
that
when it
the Nets
started.
had the 1-point
and
lead with 30 seconds left was because
not
Giannis
necessarily
couldn't make
why,
2 free
but
throws in a
when.
row. And the Nets do it. They had
And
a
the
couple
short
really
of it
smart
is
fouls to him,
essentially,
where it's like,
yes,
fine, go.
I understand.
1 and 2.
Cats,
We're gonna outscore
dogs,
you.
animals,
There was
pets.
just like a perfect storm of all of them.
They are what they are, right? They're
You know,
these
yeah,
other
like there was like a
creatures
little
that
while there, I think,
live
late
on
in
this
the third,
earth,
maybe early in
and
the fourth. I have to look, but it was like
my cat
Middleton like
is the
blew a
only
couple of
thing that
counters,
keeps me
and
sane
it would be,
sometimes,
like,
you know,
down to
like-
8, and then I think he would get it.
So I know that,
might
right?
be it for Coach
We have a
Bud.
dog. My roommate has a
Then
dog.
he did this
It's a
whole
big
speech, which I thought was very noble
Rottweiler
about. They always
mix,
want to change
Rottweiler
the coach, they
hound
blame the
mix,
coach,
and he loves to
but
chase
everyone
his
wants to be
tail.
dispersed, and the
like,
continuity, and
I
the
know
whole
that's
thing,
just
and he was
something
good.
that some
He
dogs
kind
do,
of talked me
and
into it,
like,
and then I watched today, and I'm
it's
like,
just a
there's no way
dog.
Coach Bud comes
If
back. This is
you're
the
doing
worst
surgery on
coaching
these
jobs I've ever
things,
seen.
or
You have James Harden,
for whatever
who can't
reason,
move or run.
otherwise
And
cut
there's
them
moments,
open.
like, there was a moment with 3 minutes
You
left
know, an
when
autopsy,
Giannis
you're gonna see
got-
the
Harden
same
got
stuff that's
switched
inside
on
of
him,
me, right?
and he took
You're
it
gonna
down
see
low
a
post,
heart
he
and
ends
a
up
bunch
doing
of
like a
blood
fadeaway
and
turnaround. What
He
the fuck
way
is that?
off Shamit's dome.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I know
The
that,
only thing
right?
Giannis is going to do is do this shot, this turnaround, and I got
But
him. And it's James Harden. James
Thought he was the best player in the world, and then LeBron had that
Putting it
crazy
together,
playoff run,
right?
and it's like,
So-
I don't know, they're dead even.
As of
And then
now, we
in
have the traffic
2019, that was the
delusion.
year LeBron got hurt, and it just seemed like Durant had passed him, and then Durant gets
and
hurt, and then it flips
basically-
again, and LeBron ends up winning the
some
title with the
background
Lakers,
on
and
the
now it feels
Yo-Yos.
like
city. And so that's my only link to it, because it's right now it's just Portland's interested. It makes sense that Portland would be interested. I would think Miami would be a hell of a lot more interested in getting.
So we're in the last half of the 90s, and I'm somewhere between 9 and 12 years old. And to my knowledge, at this time, yo-yos basically look like this and are good for this.
This organization is filled with people who have been here. Like
I don't know how long I'm into it. Maybe a summer, maybe a year, maybe just a few weeks. I have one like specific memory of some church function where everybody had them, and everybody was better than I was at them. But I don't really have a lot of specific memories of being a kid with a yo-yo.
Sam went from staying as a coach, and then he
A
got
lot of
control
those first
everything in
13
Detroit, and that didn't
years
go
or
well,
whatever
right, for Stan. So that's a different animal.
of my
I would
memories
leave
are kind
Riley.
of
Like, Riley's the
lost
guy
or
that gets
repressed
LeBron,
or
he gets Chris Bosh, he gets Jimmy
whatever.
Butler, he gets you to the
So-
NBA Finals. I wouldn't leave.
But of course, also at this time, the internet is exploding, and you know, millions of people leave the hobby, but
has now kind of become like the coach's coach.
maybe not
Like, we talked
millions.
earlier about comedian.
Thousands
I
of
think Eric
kids
Spoelstra now
leave the
is
hobby.
coach's coach, where everyone
But
says, no matter what, Eric
plenty
Spoelstra
more,
is the most out of any team that he has. So, I mean, in some ways, he doesn't have to prove that. Somewhere
stick
else,
with it,
he's got that
obviously,
reputation
right?
already. But
The
in terms of
internet's
getting
making
your
the
own
world
thing,
small,
the heat is
and
always bigger
you're
than any one
able to
individual,
find
except for
people
Pat
all over
I'm
that are
looking
into
at
the
that
same
job and
toy,
saying, okay, something
and
is going to tempt him.
you know,
That's
it's
what
easier
looks
to
like.
start
You
to
got a
learn
star, it's a city
more
that he likes,
tricks,
and you get
and
an upgrade in your power.
more
become
companies
somebody
are,
who is- he does
hey,
not
we
run
can
this
sell stuff
organization.
online,
He
and
is
we
one
don't,
of a
you know, have to
handful of
rely on
exclusives.
But he has to know
whatever
that stores
local
are
area
still
we
in
have, so
right?
let's
Because
make
there's
yo-yos,
rumors that
right?
the store
So
might not be happy there.
2000 to
I don't think you
2010
have
or
to
so,
do
that's
that, actually,
basically
because he's got
my
3 years
understanding of
underway if
it.
it's
You
calling
know,
from home,
certain
what
people
William just
stick
said
with
is
the
true.
hobby,
He's not gonna ruin
and
himself. This will be his second job, and there will
all
be a
these
third
little companies
for Eric
pop up,
Spoelstra
and
if he
these
wishes
big
to
companies
continue
pop up, and so they spin forever and won't come up unless you
What's the
know,
appetite to be out from under the
you
parental
do a specific
organization
trick
you've been
that
under for 20
forces
years because you'd like to try
extra
something
string
new
into
because Riley and
the
Erickson have
gap
been
of the
trying for a
yo-yo,
long time,
you
and
know,
you just want to try
and
something
makes it
new.
roll
Again,
itself back
I'm
up,
just throwing out
right?
hypotheticals. I will say it again. I don't know.
And
look.
We're pretty much caught up to the present on the yo-yos.
Him and LeBron, I think, are the two best players.
They're modern. They're
of the past 15
unresponsive,
years
meaning they will
by
not
any
come back to your
calculation.
hand when
I
you
don't-
pull it
I
up.
don't care where you're going with it. And it was always weird to me.
They're
that he never
anywhere
got credit. I think it was
from
from some of the
$5,
choices
$10
he made. You
for
saw
a
it
plastic
today. Yeah,
mass-produced one to hundreds and hundreds of dollars for fancy titanium ones, or
I hate to say this,
you
but
know,
like, I felt like Giannis
the instant sellouts at the small batch 10 at a time, where
do different things.
it's a great yo-yo and it's a great colorway, and
take a shot at that.
you have 100
Like,
people
take a
trying to
shot at
buy
Giannis putting
10
out there on him, and just like
pieces of
I don't
art,
know what they
you
were like.
know,
Were they saving Giannis for
for
like,
$150. Those,
Oakland team? And it was
I'm not
like,
really sure how
I think
I
that everybody saw that they were
rediscovered
doing something
them.
special. The problem is that like the only person
I know
who
that I
did
was
Bud.
living
But
here
the
out
only
in
person who
Portland,
wasn't like,
and
what's, like, the
there's a
emergency I have
company
to
in
pull the
Oregon
lever
called
was
One
Bud.
Drop, one of the
Well,
most
I would throw James Harden in there as
popular
well. He had some pretty
small
bizarre
independent
moments. I
yo-yo
like to talk
companies
about
out
him
there.
either. What's interesting
And I
about
think
Durant,
what
so he
must
wins
have
the 2
happened
titles
was
with Golden
during
State.
that
And he has some great head-to-head stuff with LeBron, and the 2
fidget
threes in
spinner.
Cleveland were both really good games, and he hits
Boom,
the
a
big
few
shot in
years
both
ago,
of those games.
which I also found
2019
fascinating.
Felt like that was going to be his year.
Started looking
where
into
it's
that,
like,
and I
now,
think that must have led me to One
Kyle
Drop,
already was the
who
best player in the league, but
they're
now
one of the
really
only
laying
companies in the
smack down. He
United
ends up
States
getting
that
hurt,
makes
and
the
it gets
actual
taken away from him.
yo-yos
I wasn't sure if we were going to see it
in
again.
the United
He's
States.
never had a game
They're
this
very,
special
very
in a moment
precisely
this
made,
special.
but even mass-produced in
expecting that
China.
to be the new big three, Chris Ryder.
You know, like they're
Jeff Green going like Reggie Miller in the Garden.
you set the
I was
machine,
not ready for that.
you pump out a
He had
bunch of
5
them,
threes in the
100 at
first
a
3
time or
quarters,
whatever.
and basically,
Like it's
if you
not
went
going to
2
be
for
any
5,
different
they're
than
down
if they
by
were made
20
in the
plus
United
and the game's
States.
over.
Yeah,
he has to hit all 5 of
But
them.
One Drop does make them in the United
guess they
States,
were, like,
and
relatively open,
they also
but it
made a
wasn't
fidget
like he
spinner
was, like,
during that
by
hype,
himself on an island.
I
Like,
guess.
He was playing within the flow of the game. I was really surprised
because they're kind of
to see
similar. They have
Harden out there the
bearings and they
entire
spin.
game, essentially as a decoy.
So I guess what fascinated me about the fidget spinner thing was not the fact that kids were into them. It was the fact that
horrific in this
non-kids were into them. So like, there are people that saw this and they're like, oh, hey, this is cool. Let me make those. And then they make a company in a summer out of designing and making fidget spinners that cost hundreds of dollars. And that kind of led me down this path of this whole subculture of other stuff that people make that people collect. And I've always been a collector, so the fact that, you know, you could go out there and buy a yo-yo for,
I know we're defending them a little bit differently, but
you know, $200 and it will sell out immediately. Like that just blew my mind, and it was really interesting. And
Harden bringing the ball up
you
towards
know,
the
I
end of
had
the
to
game,
try it.
and they
It worked for me, kind of like
it wasn't like he was a DH.
it was like a meditative thing.
He's also
you know,
their rim
obviously
protector
there's a
on
lot of
defense.
going on
Listen,
up
that was in the
in
running
my
for
brain,
the best
and
two-way games I think I've ever seen anyone play.
for a few years I started painting back in the day, and I kind of did the same thing. I could just
my complete list.
find a picture,
I'd find
you
it
know,
hard pressed to remember
map
somebody
it out,
playing a more memorable, important,
add the
clutch,
color,
two-way game with their season on the line, right? Because
until it looks right in my head, and I just not have to think about stuff. And this is the same thing. I've never gotten any good at it. I'm not good at it.
So it's like, now you're in a situation where you're coming out of this
But I
game
can
and
sit
you
there
have
for
all
5
of this
minutes and just
leverage over the
throw
other
it
team.
around and
yeah, the two-way
watch it
play
do
was
its
amazing.
thing,
I actually
mess
thought that some
around,
of it,
and you have people doing these ridiculously intense, crazy combo
like this,
where like
43 minutes, 44 minutes, maybe
you won't be able to tell what's going on. I can't tell what's going on, and I'm into the hobby. But you can tell it's really impressive, and the thing does not stop spinning for that entire time. And
the clutch shit,
it'll do things
play,
like
the biggest play of the game.
The
Harden
one that
has
Harden-
an awful possession.
Yeah.
gyroscopic
The Harden,
flap,
like,
where
screwing
I
up the
guess
shot
it's
clock
like
at half court, and then Durant
you know,
coming
you
in
have
and saving it like that.
the
and,
spinning.
oh my god, I just can't. It was
And then
like-
when you apply
also it was
force of the
really
string in
because I
different
think that this
directions, it'll
season-
spin this way, but it'll
because,
also
like,
spin this
the
way.
main three of Brooklyn missed so much time.
Right.
They haven't played that many games together. Is that
And it just, it
at
doesn't
various points it was a different
logically make
team,
a ton of
and you
sense,
could just feel
right?
with Brooklyn
But
in the building for that game, and like
It's
you know, you could
fascinating,
just
it's
see
interesting,
That was like
and
a March Madness crowd or something.
Where you're just like, why aren't they targeting Harden? Why aren't they making a move? Why aren't they making a move?
So
Because
you might
the Nets
have
were just
heard
like, cool, put him
about
on PJ
this
Tucker.
Right.
meme.
KD was.
I don't know if it's a meme or it's just a web,
The
like
trade-off there, it's like, okay, well, PJ's a
money
0-1
making
offense,
thing.
you can guard
I don't know.
Make
There's
them
this
pay for it
movement
down
of
at the other end.
birds.
Let's just trade bodies.
Birds are not real.
And instead, they're like,
right,
no, we're gonna have
online.
PJ barking at KD the entire game, but essentially,
I know it
it's
is
like vaporized.
a money-making
And
opportunity.
then, like,
Somebody out there
they can
has turned it
hide
into a
Harden out
place
on him in the
to
corner.
sell
And this
T-shirts
Bucks thing
and
where they would rather
whatnot.
pass to a fire hydrant.
But the
for
gist
a
of it is
open
basically
three-pointer
birds
than
are not
take the
real.
game to the net.
Birds
And it was like,
are
well, so they just don't rebound. I guess I
surveillance,
haven't watched the
you know,
Bucks enough. But do they
drones
not do
or
any offensive rebounding? Are they that?
whatever.
They had four today. They give it up because they try to get back on
Government.
defense. When you said Tucker was a zero,
machines, and they're not.
literally he was a zero. He
Yeah.
had 0 points. Listen, there were a lot of.
And that's kind of
from Milwaukee,
where it's not where the delusion
timeouts,
started. This
when-
is actually
once you have a lead like that,
almost
you're
a
on the road.
decade before
Did
birds are
anyone
not
They
real.
can get momentum.
When
But
Bud challenged
that's
that
kind of the
Brooklyn
gist
James
of the
Harden foul.
delusion.
Yeah,
Is
what did
that
Anybody like
how is that
yes,
a
I know
challenge?
cats
You
are
think that
cats.
guy's gonna be like, you know what, Harden did our bar.
But there's
I've
just
decided to
this
see the
thing
light
where
and flip
if
that.
I'm in
That
that
was never gonna
mindset,
happen.
I'm.
Well, and also like
It's really
you
easy to
take Tucker
convince
out, put
myself
in,
that
I don't know,
they're
Bryn
not,
Forbes, sure,
right? That
and just like, all
they're.
right, Harden, you're gonna have
What
to
are
get
they? I
somebody
don't know.
who can
Are
create a
they-
shot now. and we're gonna do something. We'll put you in picks. Like we'll do anything. He didn't really have to do anything at all. And then on the other end, it's like, why aren't they pressuring him full court?
You know,
he was so clearly from the first 20 seconds, you could see like he can't run. He's going to jog through this game, and he's such a brilliant basketball mind. He's going to figure out
aliens or something, and they're just kind of
wasn't able to go to the basket,
keeping track of humans and sending this information back.
But it's just like that part was amazing to me. And
you know, maybe they have their
and then not doubling Durant.
Call it God, their assigned
criminal. Jeff Green beat you like that.
Joe Harris hasn't made a shot in 3 games. Make him beat. Make anybody else beat you. Right? Durant's hotter. Durant's NBA Jam flames coming out of
whatever
his head.
the case may be.
Yeah, I think it's tough because like you get to the end of the game and you want to be just like this was a pure act of like basketball poetry by Durant. But if I'm the Bucks,
sorry, lost my train of thought.
I'm killing myself on the way back. Like I just cannot believe I gave that one away.
So like Cats, right? To me,
it doesn't seem to be a lead anymore. Like,
almost,
you know what I mean? It just feels like teams have been jumping on teams in the first quarters and getting up big, and like, that team just gets slowly pulled back. It actually felt like this was the game plan for me. It actually felt like no matter how bad the bleeding gets, as long as we're living in the third quarter, mid-third quarter, we have this guy, and that crowd got into it. That
so I guess to get
and so I'm kind of impressed because I was like,
this across, we could go back to the catalyst.
Like, the day ones from like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
my first mental breakdown or whatever was
I would have played Giannis's brother
March of 2010. I think that's kind of like the thing that sticks out in my head. I would have been just turned 23.
Just so it doesn't sound reactionary, I watched the halftime show with Barkley and those guys.
Yeah,
just that it started when I'm 23.
Like,
you know, like that's such a significant number.
And Barkley was saying, I think they're gonna win the title, but this is the stupidest team I've ever seen. This is
in your brain,
all the
you know.
shit happened. This is when this is first quarter. Yeah,
so I'm 23 and I'm having my first mental breakdown. And honestly,
I
from
just will never understand
23 to 27 or
how you don't
28,
use that against the team.
A lot of stuff
and
went down,
case,
and I don't
like,
know the timelines or when I was locked up
every
or
other
when I
basketball
was.
game we watch, they find the weak link, and it's like the deer in the wilderness,
in the psych ward or what
deer and takes it
came in what order, but I had one specific experience where.
Because they had PJ Tucker out there who scored 0 points.
Well, there was a moment when they took him out.
I guess this couldn't have been the March of 2010 one that started it all because
and it was Giannis,
Lopez.
Middleton,
playoff basketball was on.
Well, the
would
other
have been
thing
more
was
like
there were
May or
moments when
June.
Harden would get switched on
Maybe
to people,
of
and there was
11,
never this light bulb moment.
maybe of 10,
where
maybe
the
of
guy would
11.
go, oh, James Harden's on me. I should just go buy him. He can't.
Pretty much
He's
from
playing
that
with, like,
2010
I don't feel like the
16,
Bucks ever
15,
really got,
16, 17.
You know, I mean, I guess to the Nets' credit, they knew
it was a
when to, like,
yearly
get into it,
occurrence
get out of it, but
where
like, they
at
I
least
didn't feel
once
like
a
they got
year,
him
usually
running
around
a lot.
spring,
I didn't feel like
I'd
they
have
ever made
these
Harden have to do the sprinting that's
breakdowns
really
where
hard on a hamstring injury because
a
what
new
Harden did
delusion
out
would
there
pop up,
was
or
nuts. He played
I'd be
on a
really
busted hamstring for
intensely
almost the
set
entire
on
game,
the ones
but
that
they
I'd
were
already
saying during the
developed.
broadcast, like Steve Smith was or Grant Hill was saying, you know, you basically can't sit. Watched enough guys like when they have like gamey hamstrings.
So playoff basketball is on, and
that's where they injure them.
most of these
kind of lope around, and then every once in a while he's the guy
breakdowns
the backdoor pass to Joe Harris,
whatever are probably just panic attacks, and they're probably
like, at halftime, I was
the
like,
result of lack of sleep
too much
is the main thing of all things that have ever messed me up. Lack of sleep.
Like he was much of a liability.
I've never really had an issue sleeping. I've never slept super well, but I've never really had
just wanted to go down together if they were going to go
issues getting my sleep. But
I think
sometimes I would, and if I didn't sleep for
was one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen.
a day or two or
provided something, but even if
3,
statistically
stuff starts to get weird, and
we're gonna take a break. I have a couple more thoughts on this that I'm excited to.
That's kind of where I assume these all come
this
from.
This episode is brought to Mistakes with Friends for those who invent,
but for now, it's
share. Early
2010s, and it's playoff basketball time, and I'm having some sort of panic attack, mental breakdown in this townhouse that I lived at the time with a roommate, and I'm watching basketball, and I'm having this breakdown where there's an alarm going off in my head.
Who should he take here?
And not like,
obviously the pick was Duncan, but Van Horn.
hey, there's an alarm going off in my head, but like I could literally hear
was
like
a 20-point game forward. Him just seemed like the kind of guy who's gonna have a 15-year career in the league, scoring 20 points
wake
a game.
up alarm.
You never know. Just like a basketball career
In my
things
head.
aren't always what
I
they
know
seem when it comes
it
to
was
your
just in my head, and I know it was just a panic attack, and I know I couldn't literally hear it.
Good neighbor, State Farm.
But there's an alarm going off in my
Okay,
head,
so this is the
and
part of the
at the
podcast where I
time,
somehow tied this
I am
together, but-
convinced that I'm dying.
So,
right?
Cleveland, Boston
That's what that
series,
alarm means. This
1992.
is like the
Winner plays the Bulls.
cross
The
over the
legends are like a
tracks, like
30-pound
you're going
back
on to the other
race. You can't
side.
barely
This
move
is
anymore.
like
Celtics
the
got
elevator
straight to the series,
opening,
game
elevator
6 in
doors
Boston. I'm
opening.
actually there with my dad, and as it turns out, it's the Legends' last home game. Bird goes out there. They change the offense. He stands
So
at
I'm
the
watching
top of the
basketball,
three-point
trying to
line,
convince
and they
myself
basically
that I'm
do this
not
gimmicky
dying,
offense where
and
he's just kind of finding cutters.
we
and
have
they're just
a
using
cat at
passing.
the
He's not
time.
moving that much. And the Cavs are just discombobulated. Like, they're like, what
my
the fuck
roommate's
is this? They
cat,
don't know
and I
what to
honestly
do.
don't remember his name.
And he's just hitting dudes, and the Celtics win by 20,
But
and Reggie Lewis and Brian Shaw.
I
these
could just
guys,
tell
like,
that he
they
could just
look
tell
great.
that something was wrong with me.
And it's like, wow, we figured
And
it out.
I'm in my
This is-
head
this is-
hearing these
Brian Shaw wasn't on
alarms
that
and
team. It's
like trying
it's
to
Steve
watch
Brown,
basketball
Reggie
because
Lewis on the
I
team.
understand
So it's like,
basketball,
we
right?
figured out
So
we
like
unlocked this. Game
I
7 in
understand
Cleveland,
even through
the Cavs are like,
this
"Fuck
alarm in my
this,"
head.
and they just
Hey,
pound him impressive.
you're
against
not
the ball.
dying.
Like, he's
You're
like,
in your
"I can't move.
apartment.
What are we
You're,
doing?" And I wonder,
it's
like, with
20,
Harden heading
11,
into
you're
game
watching
6, the Bucks
basketball.
are gonna look at this
Like,
tape and be like,
you know what's going
what are we
on.
doing? Why this guy can't
But it
move.
wasn't
Why
working.
can't we just demolish this guy?
All of a
which I think
sudden,
is what's
you
gonna
know,
happen.
the TNT
if Ty Lue was coaching the Bucks, I
playoff
think they would do that.
team
But
is
I don't know. I just feel like
talking to
the
me
Bucks
specifically,
play
and they're
this
trying
style
to
of
tell me
basketball
this
that more often than
this
not feels
joke,
like
and
they
it
could
was
care less
apparently
who
the
opponent
first
is
joke
and what is
ever
happening on the
written
floor. They're like looking for these
from the
certain
Bible or
openings
something,
that they
and it
go
was
for
supposed to kind of
on all their
answer.
possessions. It was even driving me crazy.
It was supposed to let me in on this secret, and I just couldn't follow this joke, and they were kind of like making fun of the fact that I couldn't follow this joke, but it was like, hey, you're in the club, like you made it, you got it, you know,
Even
like.
if it is getting tight. So I don't know. I mean, like.
But meanwhile, I'm like, hey, no, I'm dying. There's an alarm going off in my head.
So you've
I'm
now
dying.
kicked the door open just a little bit more for Kyrie to come back.
And then there's this cat that knows this is all going on.
I don't know whether or not Harden is going to be able to
kept coming over to me, and
tomorrow, but like it'll be
it's like
fascinating to see if he can contribute anything in the next 2 games.
almost like
Kyrie on the bench?
cat
I
was
did not see
talking
him. They
to
didn't cut away to him,
the
but, yeah,
TV
like it's also weird
people
the way
on the
benches are
TV
set up
and
now
trying
where,
to
like,
explain,
guys might
like
be in the back,
interpret
but there
for
weren't
me
any, like, cutaways to
what
his
was
celebration
going on to
Kyrie.
them, and like there was
I'm
this
throwing this at you.
back
I
and
think
forth
they
between
throw
the
away
cat
game 6.
and the TV
Well, you would,
and
wouldn't you? But like,
you know,
like,
the
if
basketball
and if you go down 20,
analysts, and
I don't play Harden. I don't.
they're
play
all
Kyrie.
trying to tell me that I'm not gonna die,
And I'm
and
just like,
I'm
they're gonna have to
okay,
beat
and
us
I'm
in
in on
rounds.
this
We're
secret,
almost
and
like it's the
it
first
just
low management player.
that was
So what would you do
the
with
catalyst where all of a sudden
Let him
I'm like,
start and then
okay,
pull him if he goes down 20.
yes, I know this is
Maybe
just a
play
cat.
Harden
I
in the first
understand
quarter. I shoot a
the
ton of
evolution
threes.
and
I'm just
the-
like, let's shoot
the-
50 threes. Let's see if we
you know,
can get
animals are
24
animals
for
and
50
nature
from
is
three.
nature, and
But let's
but
not
at that
insert too
point
much stuff, 'cause
I'm
I
just
think
like, yo, this
it would be
cat is
Thursday
like
night would be
he's a
game 6.
he's a psychiatrist. He
then
comes to me, he can feel what I'm
Saturday
feeling, he
night's
can tell what
Saturday
I'm
night's
doing
game 7.
or
So
thinking,
that's not a ton of recovery.
he's
time.
reporting
You
back
just
to
put 48
someone
minutes
that,
in Durant.
you know,
Dude's got a surgically repaired Achilles.
hey,
and
he's
I don't
okay,
think the Bucks
or
can win in Brooklyn.
hey, he actually needs help.
I don't think they have it. One of the things they're missing.
There are,
they
hey,
don't
he actually
have-
needs
and
help,
It's not like a
but
Dante DiVincenzo thing.
they would be different
they're missing
stories,
like that.
and
Not even like a Jordan Clarkson. Like
No,
just
I know what
somebody
you
I'm
mean.
already
who
way
can
too long
come
on
in and
this.
score.
These are supposed to be like
you have
quick
Shake
5-minute
Milton.
episodes.
Where it's like you
They
don't know
do not
what
have
to
it.
what
About
you're getting
five,
from Shake Milton.
25
You might get
minutes.
2
From
threes.
Forbes in the
You know,
earlier
just
round.
do
like,
something,
They got a
you
couple
know,
of like
just
check
do
Forbes,
something.
Forbes games, but they
Um,
don't have a microwave off the bench.
And
So I
the
won't
way
get
they use
into that,
Lucas
but
Barkley and
yes,
those
cats
guys
are
talking
medics.
about your
They
game.
strike me as
I
essentially
have to imagine it's instructed. I just think that they
kind
are like,
of
play 5 out. You're like a a 38%.
Watch Dogs, you know, like they're always
we'll play the numbers on
there's
that.
a sense of
Because, like, I just thought
morality mentality
game was,
with
what I
dogs.
thought was great about the way they were playing in the first half was it just seemed that
They just seem to want to keep people in line.
Which was always supposed to be the Brooklyn Achilles heel.
And granted, when I say these things, it's always when I'm in the mindset, right? Like when I'm really
and that you could make them pay, and that's why people are kind of like entertaining this idea that Philly might be able to give Brooklyn a lot of problems in this conference finals because they're going to play down low and they're going to punish and get boards and stuff like that. And Milwaukee.
But it's also always kind of like in the back of my head.
You mentioned the computer just never learns, and the computer's just like, I'm the computer. I'm just going to do this.
You are living life, and everything is just exactly as you believe
we're
it
computer
is.
chess.
And
this was a program built.
all of a sudden,
So do you think it's a bud thing?
you slip and fall, and you hit your head, and you're knocked out, and you wake up in the hospital 2 hours later.
I think
You wake up in the hospital 2 hours later, and
10 years.
you're sure.
You're not gonna. The thing that he doesn't
something
have,
is
this is
wrong.
one of the
This
things
is
that I think
not.
makes Durant
You
so
just know
special.
something is wrong.
Durant's been playing in games.
Indeed, something is
but
wrong.
he's
What has
just
happened
like-
is, in
since
that
he
2
was
hours,
6 years old,
you
was
were
on a
abducted by
team, and
aliens,
he was 8 years old, was
and
on
you were
an
taken
AAU
to
team. He's
a
just been-
world
he's played in a million
that looks
basketball games.
exactly like everything
And you
is.
have a
Everything
general feel
is
for
exactly
certain
as you know.
rhythms of those games, right?
You,
the previous game.
you can't
for
see
someone I
anything
talked about
different.
it,
You can't
when
feel
Kyrie
anything
got
different.
hurt,
It's this
it
earth
really-
as you know it.
Durant was a
But
little
when you wake up in that
shell-shocked for
hospital,
like a half hour. You could see it on the court.
you know
because
something
he's
is
smart
different.
enough to
You
know,
don't
like,
belong.
He's doing the calculus. He's like, oh fuck.
Right.
Unless I'm amazing in
And
this game,
you can
we're
tell
not gonna
that
win. They're
everybody
actually gonna beat
else
us, and it actually took them out
knows
of the
that you
game.
don't belong.
I don't know if Giannis
So
has a basketball
you
kind of reps brain like that, where as the Durant thing is happening,
you know something is
that's where
wrong.
your
You
best
know that
player
they
is
know
like,
that
hey,
something
get
is
this
wrong,
fucking
but
guy,
you
outguard
can't.
him.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell
Let
you,
me have him.
hey,
Or
this is Earth
I'll take
2.0.
over. I'm just
Like,
gonna get to the basket. I'm
we
gonna
stole
try
you
to
from
drop
Earth
fouls on
1.0,
somebody.
and
like as great as
why?
he is,
I don't know.
just feel like
Like,
there's
what's
still like a
going to
naivete with him in
happen?
some of
Like,
these
why
games.
Well, and
do we
I-
want
this
you
happens
here?
a little bit in
Like,
Philly games too with Simmons, where there's like a whole portion of the game
it
that's
just,
for Ben Simmons.
that's kind
and there's
of
the last 5 minutes.
what that
and
first
you
mental
basically just
breakdown
have
did
to, like,
to me.
Take what you can get from him on defense, and then hope that he gets like
a tip.
So when I say these things, like,
cut or something like that. And
yeah, I know they're delusions, and I
in the
know
last 5 minutes of this game, where I was like, Middleton should
that
not have
it's
dunked
really
on
only if
Giannis.
I'm in a
Middleton
certain
should have gone
mindset,
to
like
the
a
cup for that
stressful,
because-
you know,
not 'cause
something
Giannis is
triggers
bound
it,
to
and then I'm
drop
like,
it,
okay,
But Middleton and Holiday
this
have
traffic,
to
like,
accept
why
the fact
is it
that, like,
this
the last 5
cat?
minutes of the
Why
game
is
are
it
where their
this?
skill sets are
You
the most
know,
valuable.
We didn't even
media.
talk about
Why
that.
is
Going to
it
the free throw. Yeah.
this? Whatever. Why is it
I mean,
so
that
tailored
would
to
have been
me?
a tie game.
Um,
Last like 20 seconds.
But
Great
even
pass by
knowing
Middleton.
that
And Grant Hill was like, what a strip by Jeff
it's a
Green. That wasn't
mindset,
a
and
strip.
these
Giannis dropped it.
catalysts
He dropped the ball. He thought he was going to dunk
kind
it.
of need something needs to kick him into place.
I think he was going in for the rebound.
It's
And that
always
actually
there.
is probably
It's
what should
always
happen.
in the
Middleton probably
back
should have
of.
gone to the rim.
It's like
and tried
there's
to get
two
contact, and he probably
tunnels
would've
in my
finished, and he's a
head,
better free
and
throw shooter
like
than Giannis. And
the
that's
one
just what
normal
makes
one
sense
where
in the
I'm living
modern
my
NBA
life
last
and
5
I'm
minutes
just
of the
some
game.
depressed,
And I know you wanna come out with
anxiety
your best player,
ridden cook
you know,
that
being a participant in it, but
you
like
know,
I'm watching the way Doc
feels like he's living in
and the way
quicksand
he's
in
just,
this
like,
earth
all
that
these
he
things
knows
that
is
Ben
this
Simmons
earth.
does are
That's
very
the normal
valuable.
one, and that's
I am
not
gonna
a
put him in
fun
the most
or
valuable
exciting
places. He
life
is not the free throw
necessarily,
shooter
but
in the
it's
last 5
like
minutes of this game.
it's
You know what I
life.
mean? And if I
you know?
just sub
It's
him out,
normal and it's
so be it.
life.
Now I'm not saying Bud should have taken
But right
shots
there
out,
in
but I just
the
don't know why
brain,
they repeatedly
in like
went to him when there
tunnel,
were other options on the floor.
you know,
It's so funny when the generations
2.0
pass and you can compare the guys
side by side with This Is Life. That's
those last 4 minutes.
Yo,
Kobe and some
you woke up on a
shooting,
different
and
planet.
You kind of hoped you only
12
went
years
to
ago,
Shaq
11
around
years
the
ago.
rim, but you didn't go for him because you were always afraid he was going to get fouled. And Giannis now in these last 4 minutes.
So I guess just try to keep that in
especially
mind
with the
if
Nets,
you're
when you know
watching
they're going
this.
to make their free throws, right? Durant missed one that would have given him a 50-point game, and it was like shocking that he missed it.
It's just
Sure, but when Giannis
your
makes
brain
the free
is
throw,
insane, and
you're right. When Giannis makes the free throw, I'm shocked.
I don't
In the
know.
last 3 minutes, I just assume he's going to miss them.
You know, we talked a little bit earlier about whether or not Durant diminished Giannis in all this game.
I don't know.
I as an ability to control, like essentially to control the pace and the game in
Interestingly,
terms of
this
tempo,
camera does
energy,
not seem
pace.
to act
And Holiday was
right
just kind of like, well, we're gonna run our stuff
in
We're gonna-
anything
we'll
but
just
the
run our stuff. I'll
high
on the, like,
ridiculous
it just didn't feel like he ever put
quality
his
that I
foot
can't
down on the
edit.
brake at all.
It
And
wants to
that's
do weird
will be the legacy of this Buck
stuff.
season if they end up not getting past this round, is that I said this at the time, so I don't feel bad about it.
All right, I'm gonna go. Battery's dying.
I should have gone for Chris Paul, but
and this thrift store's about to open.
Had a bigger impact.
So I can.
A game like tonight, I just don't think they lose a 17-point lead. Even though Chris Paul has a couple of
sure, he's
put in his past. Right. I just.
Why am I only allowing interviews that are 3 questions or a max of 3 questions? Well, I know it's ironic because the reason anybody is paying attention to this is because I somehow managed to talk for, however long it ended up being, 2 hours worth of YouTube videos about dealing with mental illness. So only 3 questions because I just don't think that anybody has anything to say. It seems to me the older I get, the more I realize that, what's the meaning of life? Or, what are we here for? And, what are we doing? And people, there's no answer to that. People are just, floating through their 75 years and, pretty much just talking because they feel like they have to, you have to meet somebody to eventually fall in love, or you have to have friends so that you're not doing what I've done for the last 20 years of, isolation, and so they fill in the time with talking to each other, and I've just never felt like I had anything to say, or anybody else has anything to say for that matter. So I just didn't want these to get too ridiculous and, singularly focused on these thoughts in my head. And I figured 3 is kind of it's like the first significant number, it seems like. So you get, yes, I know I kind of put you in a bad spot because you had to ask basically about the stipulation of the 40 seconds of F for Fake. You basically had to ask about the 3-question limit, and there's 2 of your questions, and I pretty much know what the 3rd question is going to be. And yeah, I'm sorry for you being first, and having to deal with that. Anybody that watches this is going to get the point, get the picture, I think. Anybody that has watched the YouTube series will already understand the picture, I think. So yeah, that's why you only get 3 questions, because there's just it's really just nothing to say, there's too many people and there's too much going on with Earth, and it's silly that we have all of the issues that we have, and if everybody would just sort of not talk so much, maybe it would all make a little more sense, So, yep, 3 questions. walls and the traffic covered. This thrift store is about to open, so the parking lot is filling up, and that means I can't really do this here. But I think the next delusion is going to be probably the product placement, because that's easiest to describe from what's Alright, so one thing I haven't tried, but I'm going to now, is On the Move, because, you know, I could be talking on Bluetooth on the telephone, and I guess that's still the case when I'm parked somewhere, but, yeah, whatever. At least there's not likely to be whatever. So all of these, I'm sure you've figured out by now, pretty much the same thing. Let's see if we're close enough to get This one is actually really good because it's one of my favorite songs, and something about the simplicity of it, just, see, like, there's this guy, no, never mind, he was looking in the other direction. So I'll do a quick description of the product placement, and basically it's exactly what it sounds like. You know what product placement in movies is. This is just product placement in real life. Solid soul, in the blood I bleed, in the blood, and not my spoons, only one drop the hand.
would I be? Hear the little girl not my friend. Only want a perfect house. Alright, well, people are rushing to the door, so it must be open, so I'm going to stop, and I'll get back to you on the product placement. So product placement delusion is, like I said, basically exactly what it sounds like. And this one is obviously easiest when I'm not in my own living situation. If I, move into a new place or, spend the night somewhere, end up in a hotel, or go home to visit my family, any of that sort of thing. And it's basically what you would expect. You get in this mindset and you look around your house, whether it's your house or like I said, someone else's house, more likely. And essentially, it's kind of like, even if I know that obviously the things I'm seeing are just things that people use, it could be even something, that I put there for the sake of art, like this soda bottle cap printing plate thing, and I put that there because I like it, like I like the way it looks, and I think it's interesting. But if I get into the product placement mindset, what'll happen is it's like my eyes are a window to somebody else's viewing, like I'm forcing this 7-Up or whatever other products I happen to use onto somebody else, where that somebody else is me. I'm stuck at a train right now, which is probably the absolute worst time to be doing this, because there's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars with people in them around me. But what are you gonna do? Wow, 6 minutes just on this so far, and I haven't even really said anything. Okay, so yeah. So ultimately, it's probably just all part of the same bullshit, dissociation. Fucking, you're not a real person, or you're not part of life. You spend 15, 20 years, like sleepwalking through your life, and all of a sudden, it's like nothing is real. So I understand that, and I know that there's not like some conspiracy to make
lot you can do. This train is now backing up. Which is not a good sign. I'm pretty sure I've been in this exact position before, where obviously minus the literally recording myself part. And these are absolutely the situations that'll get me into any one of these delusions where, you know, now I have to sit here and watch train car companies go apparently back and forth for probably about 10 minutes now. Kind of annoying. But yeah, lots of people stuck somewhere I don't want to be, unexpected, and all of a sudden you're in the mindset where it's like there's a camera on you and somebody else decided to have, you know, a Gatorade bottle and 2 boxes of Q-tips on your coffee table, you know, which is really annoying and frustrating. Because you know it's not that. I'm trying to find a specific song, but it's on shuffle, so just kind of hoping. So I'll be back shortly.
That's a good example.
Wow, I came up with that off the top of my head. I'm generally bad at improvising. I feel good about my submission. Good job.
I feel
actually,
so. When I went on the Greg Cody podcast with Greg Cody last week, he asked me like.
I guess a lot of this is just depersonalization.
Will it be broken, sore and stiff? Genie at the bottom, who I'm sucking at. He owes me one last wish, so here's a present to let you know I still exist. Next boy that you kiss has something terribly contagious on his lips. I got a plan. Drink 40 days and 40 nights. Simple every second and tick every time. Every line means so much to me without you. All the English boys and me. I'm the American boy back in the States. The American boy you used to date. Who would do anything you say? All the English boys and me. I'm the American boy back in the States. The American boy you used to date. Who would do anything you say?
Where did I leave off?
And even if a plane crashes tonight, you'll find some way to disappoint me by not burning in the wreckage or drowning at the bottom of the sea. Do anything you say.
So they're gonna try to get this whole entire row to turn around because I guess this train is just not going anywhere. I don't know. This wasn't the song either, but this song. Now there's people all over, all out of their cars, and it's an absolute recipe for me to freak out and get inside my head and it's got to be riveting for whatever alien channel is using my eyes as their camera. Well, some people are, it looks like they're all just kind of out of their cars trying to figure out, if we should all try to turn around or, and then see, you got this guy. The train is moving in the right direction now. I'm not really sure where the girl that was coordinating the potential turnaround went, but it looks like maybe her timing was bad and now potentially we're going to be moving. This song brings up a good point that I'm sure at this point some of y'all are asking or wondering, which is essentially, like how much of this did you just bring on yourself by experimenting with drugs or whatever, which I'm not going to say that the answer is zero, obviously a big part of being mentally ill or what have you is kind of like you got something going on in your head and something brings it out, so there's a good chance that that first mental breakdown, I'm pretty sure, was just straight lack of sleep, but I mean, like I said, that's the thing that's messed me up the most, that I know has messed me up the most. But at this point it doesn't really matter, because it's been 10 years of not not doing the things that should be messing me up, and I'm obviously.
You'll never have that kind of relationship in the world. You're always afraid to take the first step because all you see is every negative thing 10 miles down the road.
See, and then sometimes it's like, bro, we were so close to the. Oh no, we weren't. I thought that was the end. Alright, well, I'm gonna go. Battery's down to 34%. And I now have officially like 25 minutes of me just talking here. Which is not the point, so. Alright. Bye. Alright, I'm gonna go for real. I'm putting this all the way now. Never did find the right song, but whatever.
Baseball was the thing that they put on TV. And then
Well, I guess we are all turned around because the train went the wrong direction again. They managed to get us all out of here. And now it's just a matter of figuring out how to get home without going over these train tracks, apparently.
It's as much of a spoiled child moment as that was, not as much as Ben with the Luis Gonzalez game. You can't top that. No.
Always nice when you have some random dude that just like takes charge and starts directing traffic and like. This was not the song, but I like the song. This was not the song, but I like the song. So leave it here for a second. We're going to leave it here for a second.
Posing the question, how many been empty and holding a Christian? Close to depression, open your eyes and just focus a second. Fuck a recession, my brother, my mind is blowing and I'm letting it go. Loading and pointing that negative energy, telling me stop, they telling me no. Your aura is something you ain't even sure of. Explore the core of California, boys got more to snort up. I've had a smorgasbord of
For to grab your back, that's a lot. I feel like I'm after the shot.
Praise me, I'd rather you not, cuz you're driving me crazy, the fact that you pay me amaze me, that's something I love. You come to the club, searching for drugs, drunk, fucking these slugs. God loves me, what if he does? What does it mean? You wasting away doing nothing, you frontin'. Why aren't you chasing your dreams? We wanted life, but none of us wanted to learn. Money we earn, something to burn, why won't they give me a turn? Feeling hungry and clothed and naked. You mistaken, the world is cold and it's lonely, ain't it? When them high rollers homes in Vegas raided with some home invasions, contaminating the place with plague, we just saved the day. I waste away in a room spitting these raps.
Yahweh put the world in my hand, I'm giving it back.
Yes, I give. Our time to be alive. No earthly vehicle can contain this child. Yes, I give.
Mac Miller, his passing pretty far and away the most messed up really any death has ever gotten me until ironically Kobe Bryant a year or two later. That messed me up a whole lot.
They'll ask me something and I'll say new phone, who does? It's bad.
So
It's bad. It's just because you don't want to talk to them. Because I just have to make sure that that's the person that texts me. Making sure it's bad. I just had to get the context.
Sorry, I was looking at this bird.
You feel like you're being entrapped? Sometimes. Just making sure. So the 15 bank accounts.
He's walking really weird.
They say they are.
By the way,
cover bases.
Just for you, a little note. You have your red receipts on.
I do.
That's intentional?
Intentional, yeah. If you ever text me, except for. But.
Okay, so since the last episode, a few things have happened. One, way too many people are watching this. This is probably going to be the last update because there's just too many of you out there. So today I'm going to do the last delusion, the big one for now, and I'll answer answer those questions because they also tie into the yo-yo thing. So for now, I'm going to go up this mountain, see if I can show you what this mountain looks like. I don't know which direction I need to go in. Can't really see anything, but there's a mountain there. So I'm gonna go walk around for a little bit. And then I will come back and, you know, finish up the delusion thing. Alright, I'll be back.
Who could this be from the context of what the texts are? But the problem is it's one-sided because I'm not sure who it is. And it's just like the nicest people saying like
so I'm gonna
the
hold
nicest
off on
things, and they know all about my
I'm
life
not in
events, and it's
control
just so happy for me. And
delusion.
It's like,
Exactly.
I can't.
Why can't you just say who are you? Why can't you just say I got a new phone? I had your number.
Because it's rude to
everybody
say that
knows
when
that's a lie. Yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't do it because they're gonna know.
So we'll go with the fan questions first, I guess.
For years now, where I've just been saying like, oh my
and
God,
they're kind of
so much, it's
basically
And they've texted you throughout your life
the
accomplishments
same question.
every time, like, hey, congrats on your communion, and you're like, thank you.
Well, not that. I mean,
I'm saying it's
Alright,
as,
so
as an example.
the first question was essentially, other than yo-yos and mental illness,
because the
what
initial
else
one, I felt like,
am
well,
I
can't do
into,
that,
or are you into?
Being nice to me, right? And then I dropped it, but then they just come and they keep doing it.
And the
like,
second
nice
was
things. And then
somewhat related, but it was specifically about the yo-yos, and that was to talk more about the specific ones I'm using.
It is, but I almost would rather have that.
So we'll go with those two. Is what I'm going to talk about while I'm here. They're all way too long. They were supposed to be 5. It was originally going to be called 5 Minute Spin because it's 5 minutes of the yo-yo with.
Right, but I think a lot of that with Philadelphia fans, like some of the stuff they've done is ridiculous, uncalled for. But I think if they're being
so that you can see how the
if you want to call it Ben Simmons, I understand why. That's all I'm saying. They've gone over the line before, Dan. There's no question about it. But I'd be angry at Ben Simmons.
I know, but sometimes you always feel entitled to the cruelty of your sports voice. That's why you're a sports emotional fan. Like you always feel entitled to be as cruel as possible.
They call it throwing, I guess, in the community.
They make $35 million a year. Like you
throw the yo-yo.
Because I care about the teams, Dan. I'm passionate about my teams. I care about them. And if a guy
anyway, point is, it might be a little bit long because this is kind of the ultimate delusion. Just kind of skipping to the end.
I'm not. You're right.
You're defending it right now, and if in other relationships, human relationships that I gave
it might be too long.
If I know why you feel entitled to that, yes, sports fans feel entitled.
For now, I'm
very
just gonna pause real quick
now more than ever with the anonymity and the access
that I
of
can
the internet. But
think a little better.
Is right, and it brings me to something we should have talked about earlier, which is
how do you not? So you look at the text without actually clicking on it.
So
like,
what else am I into?
Where you'll go like hours. It's like, how has he not looked at his phone yet?
So
basically, everything I'm into is things to take my mind off of the mental illness. So what am I into other than yo-yos and mental illness? Nothing.
But what do you do? Like, Roy, you texted me last night, and I gave you the answer right away.
So for a while, about 10 years ago, when this 10, 15 years ago, when this kind of all really started, I guess I should clarify that the anxiety, depression, whatever underlying mental block I'm dealing with is
I feel like you might
much older. I probably started early teens, maybe like 16 at the latest is when it was clear to everyone around me, I'm sure, that I was depressed or
I don't know half of the people
whatever.
And I don't understand why I've been lumped in on some of these.
But the actual like delusional like mental breakdown stuff
in my life does
started
all the time, every occasion.
You know, 10, 11, 12 years ago.
New Year's,
23 or something.
Just lumps in basically everybody they know.
23
on one
is
text,
when
knowing full well
I start
that the majority of those
thinking
people
about
don't
it.
know each other. This past weekend,
Okay, so
Father's Day, my first Father's
10 years ago when this all started, I picked up
My godmother
a
texted
paint
me
brush and paints and, you know, $30 worth of random
love you, so happy for you.
art supplies and started painting.
Well, hold on.
My mom is an artist, so I kind of grew up around
My cousin, who's my age,
art,
is also a
and it was always
he was on his
like,
text, and we privately had these conversations in the past where we were like, why?
you know, like you're creative growing up, and then
I don't know
13, 14,
Right.
whatever,
So
between
the first person
the
replied to that, thank you so much. We're in
school
Sydney,
just
have a
sort
great
of
time,"
like
whatever, right? Yeah.
beating that out of you,
so
and
then
the mental stuff coming on.
Why are we in this again? And who the hell?
You spend 10 years
That's all
not
I'm
being
thinking
creative.
about right now is
I
who
was
is in
really
Vinny,
into,
right?
during that time,
So sure enough, he says,
I was
"I'm
really
gonna solve this
into
problem right now."
movies. I got into,
He said, "Hey,
you
who's in
know,
Biffy?"
films.
So then we have about
Probably
15 other
starting
people
at
whose numbers that we
16
don't have,
or so.
all kind of trying to catch up and see what's going
Through
on.
college,
Says, "Oh, no,
that's
I
pretty
didn't
much what I
live
did the
in England."
most.
He
I
misunderstood.
just
He
watched
said, "Oh, no,
everything from
Bimini's in the Bahamas." So then I replied, I think
really the
it's actually
60s
all
is,
teens,
you know,
right? 'Cause
where
now it's
kind
like,
of I
okay,
started,
this is
but
how we're gonna
plenty
get out of
before
this
that, but the
text
60s
forward.
is
We're just
my favorite
going to
decade
be
for
agitating
film.
the people into group text, and then we will never be invited back to these
So
group texts.
painting
sure,
and
maybe
film
we'll
were
strain
my
the
first
relationship by having
two
my
kind of
godmother
like
forward. But it's a risk I'm willing to take
escapes
if I never
from
have to be part of
the
these holiday group texts ever again. Right?
mental
So basically,
nonsense.
you're normal. You're acting like Billy. Normal life.
Well, no, but with strangers.
And
Normally
actually, I
just
guess
don't
the
have people
very
I know.
first
Now
one,
these are
and the
strangers,
one that
right?
kind
These
of
are then
ties
strangers
it
that
all
I
together
don't
would
know.
be
Right?
I'm
They
big
made
on collecting
Oh.
stuff, you know.
I found out that I did know. But here's the thing. And
As a kid, it would have been
I'm gonna say that
baseball cards.
I'm gonna say the name because I don't
Pokemon
know
cards,
that this person is gonna hear this ever. And
At
if
one
they do,
point, I
whatever.
had,
I now outed
I
myself as
collected,
one of the participants in the chicanery that was going on Father's
ceramic
Day. My godmother
dogs figurines, I'm pretty sure.
I'm texting what I can. Go on.
And then I got into film.
What a betrayal of everybody involved in your private life. You
painting.
know this isn't going to get back to all of these people?
Oh, I don't know that at all. But, you know, we're in too deep now. We're already got it.
Sorry, I know I'm just rambling. I'll try to make it make sense.
Times where you'll go
Alright,
for
so
hours, it's like, how is he not on his phone yet?
right now,
So you're ignoring
the big
text.
thing, the painting,
No, it's
I
like
just
maybe I
need
don't have
a
the
better
correct
spot,
answer
and it's kind of like
Right?
I figured that
Maybe
out,
a
you know,
couple
like
hours
I
will.
know
So instead
how
of
to make
waiting,
what
say,
I
hey,
want to make.
it's gonna take me a little bit to find the answer.
Which
I'm just waiting, and then when
so far has really just been other artists
like,
that
oh, you texted me last night, and
portraits,
I gave you the answer.
other artists that inspire me,
I don't have to wait. No,
musicians,
sometimes-
filmmakers.
You guys are
Just
open to having things
It's a
culture,
very
not
safe
really,
space.
you know,
I admitted that I text people new phone who just that I already have their phone.
I'll have to find something else to put over this for the drowning outness, because I just keep trying to listen to what they're discussing on the podcast and I'm losing track. So other than mental illness and yo-yos, I'm into collecting stuff and painting portraits of other artists that I am influenced by, and the newest meditative hobby other than the yo-yos, which again is kind of all connected, I guess, is I collect autographs of the same people that I paint portraits of, basically. And that's a direct result of the yo-yo thing, although I don't know exactly how they became linked. I've always been fascinated by autographs, and as a kid I had some that I'd pick up here or there, which, since it was the 90s and there was a very, very big sports forgery thing going on in the 90s, I have no idea any of what I had as a kid was real. I think I got some. Moved at like, 11, 12, 13 to the Tampa Bay area, and that's kind of when I started watching football. So I was by default a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, and I believe I got some stuff signed in person at some mall or something, Rondé Barber maybe. But I also know I had a Ken Griffey Jr. baseball that I bought at like Target or something, like when they used to have the sports cards. They'd also sometimes have mystery autograph baseballs, or I guess the biggest thing, these days is the yo-yos and the autographs, and then the rest of the time is pretty much split between work and not work, which is sitting around and trying to figure out how to crawl out of the quicksand. So when I first got into the yo-yo thing, it was the physics thing, like that you can make something spin 2 different directions at the same time just by tightening the string a certain way, or something that I knew as it goes up, it comes down, it goes up, it comes down, or I guess vice versa, it goes down, it comes up. Had transformed into something that, you could literally catch it on your finger and it will spin, horizontally, just like a basketball, like a Globetrotters trick or whatever. And I was like, this shouldn't be able to do these things, But another big part of it was the community behind the yo-yos. Obviously all online, because that's pretty much where I've lived my life for the last 20 years, is, sleepwalking through your waking life, so to speak. And as important as the meditative turn off my brain and toss the yo-yo around was, the actual objects themselves, the little crazy metal pieces of art, so to speak, that was equally as important. So you find you find the companies and you find the designs that look interesting, and you can communicate with the quote-unquote professionals or the stars or the company owners, because it's such a niche little thing, relatively speaking. But I don't think I was recording just now, so I'm going to say this really quick one more time. A lot of what goes into all of what you're watching, from that first mental breakdown at age 23, give or take, until this day, centers around a particular project, kind of like this, but about somebody else that I was starting to make. And I just want to make sure it's clear that you're not getting the full picture here. Part of why I never got good at yo-yos is because I wanted to look like I want to do what feels good, and what feels good is often not what looks good, if that makes sense. The only way I know how to finish a piece of art is for it to not be finished, if everything is art and art is everything, it's obviously also kind of separate from everything, and the only way that I can get that point across, I guess, is to but it's never really done, just like this is not ever gonna be really done, because I can't talk about, you know, what had such a major impact on a good chunk of the years that I was most in the deluded mindset, you know. Bro, this dude is just driving his car straight into this park that you're definitely not supposed to be driving into, so that's weird. So yeah, that's a little bit about the yo-yos that I'm into. Let's see if I can stretch this. If you ever see this brand, that's G2, G squared. Art, A-R-T, doesn't really have a logo as such, but those are the two companies I would have used the most. Basically what I collect are yo-yos and autographs, which are the most recent things that have been shut off the brain, which seems weird with autographs, I know, because like I'm not actually like a autograph seeker. I'm not gonna go up to Wiz Khalifa or, you know, any of these people and like try to track them down and get them to sign my baseball, you know. It's a weird thing to be like, hey, sign this for me, but there's just something about, you know, these people are great at what they do or what they've done and inspire me in some way, and there's just something about, even if it's like just ink, you know, it's kind of the most base form of everybody's creation, I guess. You know, the first thing you learn to write is your name, probably, and it transforms into this thing that, you know, like Taylor Swift, like she does a lot of these, sells her own albums signed online, which is how people kind of sell albums these days. A lot of the artists will just scribble something or, you know, use ghost signers or AutoPen, which is a big problem. Like, you know, people can tell, like, there's people that study these things and authenticate, and like, you know, it's just, it's handwriting. Even if it's a signature, like, there's certain things you can't fake. But my point was, Taylor Swift, as far as we can tell, hand signs all of her stuff, and it's kind of like a TYLR is what you get, but it's maybe the heart at the end. But it's so consistent, and it's been so consistent, and it's so clearly hers that, like, you know, yeah, I'll buy 10 of her latest CD because she's such a big part of pop culture and has never made a bad song. And 10 years from now, those $10 signed CDs, they're gonna be in the hands of fans, and the ones that are new fans are gonna be like, hey, I want that, and those $10 signed CDs are now $150 or $200, or whatever the case may be. So there's some investment, and there's some, you know, like, and I guess I've lost my train of thought, but I'm gonna head out now. So, all right, I'm gonna go because this park, there's too many people, and like I said, I haven't even started on this main delusions. But those are the first two questions, fan questions. What else are you into other than yo-yos and mental illness? And among the yo-yos that you are into, talk a little bit about them. So, until next time, when I am hopefully able to describe the I am not in control delusion, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go. Bye. If you know me in real life, which I guess nobody really does, I tend to talk a lot about how there's just too many people in the world, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. I just mean that, like, you know, if you think of something, there is a significant group of people out there that is really, really, really into that something. And, you know, especially with the internet, of course, that's the case. You know, of course, they never, just because I stopped caring about yo-yos at 13 after 6 weeks or a month or a year or whatever it was, doesn't mean everybody did that. And of course some people went on and continued making and buying and playing with yo-yos for that whole 10 years, 15, 20 years that I was out of the game. Because why not? You know, like, we've gotten to the point where there's just so many people and nobody really has to do, or I don't know, you gotta have a way to fill your time, I guess. So yo-yos is now a business, is now a category, you know, like as technology goes on, like there's so many groups like this, little hobbies that people are passionate about that I kind of like follow on the surface level, and it's just fascinating because, I mean, they're all exactly the same, you know, you have the same dramas that pop up and the same issues with money and the same issues with like supply and demand. Limit. Anytime somebody does something creative, the, you know, last question is pretty much what's next. So, you know, I kind of figured you would ask about what I plan to do going forward, but that was also the last question that I wanted to be asked, so I don't know why I set it up that way. Hopefully, to be honest, nothing. You know, if it were up to me, this would be the last public thing that I do, you know, but I guess we'll see. So I figured if it helps anybody to see what modern day mental illness can look like, then that's a good thing, you know. And if it helps anybody see what modern day yo-yoing looked like, and, you know, that in turn helped them deal with whatever they have in their mental, that would be a good thing. So I just kept putting them up and people kept watching, and that wasn't the plan, but you know, really there wasn't much of a downside to releasing this as a series, but I never wanted it to be a, you know, whatever. It was a meditation, it was a practice on the editing, and, you know, practice with this camera that I really liked conceptually, and, you know, it just kind of fell into place that it worked out kind of how I pictured it in my head, and so I put it up. But as far as what's next, that there was never supposed to be a next, you know. Like, if I had to make a prediction, it would probably be something like you know, one acting role in which I'm a clear and obvious Oscar candidate or frontrunner who is completely snubbed of both nomination and obviously winning. But it's like a clear favorite, you know, like one role like that, first role, the only time anybody ever sees me act, and then I would just disappear. Maybe, you know, act in commercials. That seems like an untapped, you know, people in commercials, they're either famous somehow or not, but I don't think there's anybody that's really turned acting in commercials into what it could potentially be, you know, like this is what I do, you know. There are plenty of times when I don't know if the person in a commercial is, you know, famous for something else or just an actor, whether they're a spokesperson or a commercial actor. And I think that somebody at some point is going to merge those two things and become a, you know, spokesperson for commercials in general, if that makes sense. So I might go down that path, but hopefully, you know, after this interview runs, people might look for more work out there and just never find it. And then, you know, we'll see. I might put it all together between the YouTube series and this one interview into some sort of autobiographical document, something or other. But I really don't know yet. So hopefully this is it. You know, hopefully this is the only time that I'm ever in the public eye. You know. What's next? So I called this the "I'm not in control" delusion, and again,
where there's like a defiance there that is just so cool. I'm so glad it's
self-explanatory.
Like the NBA was missing.
This one is definitely the most most physical, least
Mitchell has it a tiny bit, but not really. But Trey,
most mental and most physical, I guess.
Watching the game last night, Reggie Miller. I'm rambling. Reggie Miller was so delighted.
Hold on, I'm running into that problem where I'm listening to something for the first time.
Like all the stuff I used to do. So anyway, I don't know if I saw that side coming either. So I just gave you a lot to work with. Let's go with the little guy thing first. Tom.
They're saying, and
anyone that's ever even played, I would say this is even true, like in pickup basketball in any town.
How many people are at this park right now? I've never been here on a Friday morning,
has to be so much smarter, so much better.
I should really find somewhere better to do this,
or he
but
can't succeed, really can't. And Trae Young got that from the very, you know, I mean,
so I am not in control.
On him a few months ago. My favorite story from that whole thing was, so, you know, a new coach moves to town in Norman, Oklahoma, and they're like,
and that's real quick, I do have one more thing to say. I forget that turning makes system kind of like float. And that's probably like all of this just from 20 years of isolation and being stuck inside my head and just like kind of understanding myself really, really well and not understanding anything or anybody else at all. I'm just gonna let this song play for a second. The older I got, and I think this is part of the problem, is the more I realized that everything that I would have wanted to do, somebody else has already done. The fact that DJ Drama is doing the whole Gangsta Grizzles that was like the start of this journey was, you know, his mixtapes with Lil Wayne. In a lot of ways, I was in college for film at the time, but in a lot of ways, that was like the biggest thing that kind of like opened my mind to the fact that I needed to be doing something creative. And that was 3, 4, 5 years before the first breakdown that actually got me to not necessarily do anything creative, but know that I had to. So, alright, I'm gonna go now for real because I think I have one more story about the control delusion. But then it's just a matter of putting it all together. But it's gonna be way, way longer than I expected, so I guess I should just go. I'll be back with one more update at some point. And I guess thanks for watching. Sometimes I think that maybe some people just aren't cut out for living or life. So like the other day I'm watching basketball and it's the last game of that Bucks-Brooklyn game, and it looks like it's that bird that I told you about that was walking funny. It's the same one. And I think it just has a bad leg, but it's now like really close to my car. Anyway, so I'm watching it and it looks like Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo's season with this game-winning 3-point shot that turns out was a 2-point shot because he was too close or whatever. And in that moment, bro, this guy, Giannis, is 10 inches taller than me, 10 years younger than me, makes more in 20 minutes of one game than I make in a year. I could do the math, and I'm sure it's probably even crazier than that. But at that moment, like, I just felt so bad for him, to the point that it's like, it's ruining my night because, you know, he just looks so defeated. Like, he's doing everything, he has all this pressure, and like everybody, but he's also, I shouldn't feel sorry for this guy. Anyway, I guess my point is, all of this is you know, is really just me trying to figure out if that's true, if maybe I'm just not cut out for happiness or whatever. This bird is just like, I'm not saying all birds are government drones, but man, is he. Anyway, so I'm not in control delusion. We're at this party and I walk in and it's just what it sounds like. Somebody clicks on my character in their Alien video game and starts controlling me. You know, like, I'll hear a sound and like my arm will just kind of go back in response to the sound and then come forward in response to another sound. And I'm just kind of always I'm just kind of always responding to, so somebody walks towards me and like I know the conscious thought is, okay, I don't want this person to touch me. Like, I don't want this person near me. But I don't consciously move out of their way. Instead, this is all at this party, by the way. I just sort of am not in control. And again, logically, I know, like, you are still in control. But in that moment, I'm not in control, you know? Alright, well, I'm gonna stop here because this new Tyler album is actually really good, and I'm gonna listen to it. But I'll be back. Bill Mayer is probably my favorite artist. Cox Trash Fellow, like, I just can't trust you, you know? I've been doing this since he was like 12, and he's the GOAT. He's been doing it for 25 years, 30, and he's never missed a step, you know? Like, obviously he grew into his own thing in 2008 with Carter 2 and 3, 6, 7, 8, that area. Anyway, my point was, I like art that I make to be sloppy and unfinished, and gets to the point that it's done in my head and it's done. I like to consume art of all styles of all kinds, but when I make it, I just want to get it out and say it's done, right? So if it seems sloppy and couldn't catch me, my legs long as a bitch. You know, that's the point. For me to get my brain clear, and for you to hopefully get some of the point that I'm trying to make. When I turned 23, that's when puberty finally hit me. My facial hair started growing, my clothes didn't really fit me. That caterpillar went 23. Do you hear that? When I turned 23. Alright, I'm gonna go. I don't know exactly where I am. I'm kind of lost. So, I'll talk to you later. I just wanted to really quick mention that it's ironic that this is all kind of coming to a head right as this Tyler, the Creator album comes out, because Tyler, the Creator is kind of he was just starting to pop off when I started becoming really deluded. And one of the earliest delusions or breakdowns I had was centered heavily around Tyler, the Creator, and his see, doing this at a stoplight, I can see basically they're not looking at me. But good luck convincing my brain of that. But anyway, yeah, so Tyler, the Creator, very, very big inspiration of mine, but also one of the earliest kind of like links between me and all this delusion and stuff. So I just wanted to say that because, just listen to, rewind this and listen to this song. Try to ignore my voice and listen to what he's saying, if possible. And I don't actually even know what this is the first time I've heard this song. I don't know what it's saying, but I promise you, if you look for it, you'll find the connection, you know? So, just wanted to say that.
He thinks he's hot shit, you know. We're not really sure how good he is, but, you know, you should probably invite him. It'd be entertaining to have him. And so,
okay, so
he's in the 8th grade.
like I
he
said,
hasn't even in high school yet.
basically
he shows
what
up
it
at this
sounds
summer
like,
workout that he, almost wasn't invited to. And the first thing he does is go to the front of the line.
it's kind
and they're
of
all looking at him like, get the hell out of here. And they send him to the back. And everyone kind of has a good laugh. And then the next day, he shows up and he does
this is kind of the one that
because, see, the thing about
ties it
Trae
all
Young
together,
is
I guess.
It's not an act. He really believes and has believed his entire life that he's the best player. He truly believes he can beat anybody. He truly believes.
This one is another one that has like a specific catalyst.
Ben Simmons,
that's easiest way to describe it would be to describe this situation.
Player of the year voting.
I'm in Chicago. I'm living in Chicago for a little bit, trying to start really this project that you're watching here, but about somebody else.
Kind of evened it off was Drew destroyed him on the other end. Something Trae still needs to work on, obviously.
But
he fights more on that end than he used to.
I'm really, it's a stubbornness. Like I'm
old school. Well, you'll read the story
not
tomorrow.
willing
Everyone will read it tomorrow, hopefully.
give up this idea or this dream or
like,
whatever.
Okay, man, I'll meet you halfway. Like, I'll let
so
you
I'm
shimmy,
staying at a hostel in Chicago.
In the game 1 of the conference finals, when we're not even like the game isn't over.
Eventually,
I'll let you do that.
You're only allowed to stay at this hostel so long because I guess they don't want you to have
and you saw it in that game
cheap
last
housing long term.
He's guarding Giannis
so my
in the
time
post
is up at this
for crying out
hospital,
loud.
and I end up,
Job. Made him take a fall,
my first bout
like,
with
why isn't Giannis
homelessness
dunking on
or
that kid's head,
not having anywhere to go.
And there were a couple of plays where he just, because he's quick, right? He can move. He sealed off the baseline.
So I'm walking around with this guy that I met at the hostel, and I believe this is the second night
that's all you
that
ever ask. And Nate McMillan compared him,
without a place to
Steph Curry. I think it's a good comparison on the defensive end of the floor, because that's what the Golden State does.
And it's raining, and it's cold,
and then they hide him in their scheme.
Me and this guy are walking around, and it's like this guy is already.
Yeah. What about John Collins?
This is after the delusions have started, but
he's another guy
early on. But he's already got me in. Like,
he's won me over in the playoffs because I really.
Yo, what are you doing, bro? Like, just tell me who sent you. Like, who? Like, why?
Capella was too. Capella made the biggest.
Like, why would you be talking to me about these things? Why won't you just be honest and just tell me what you want
exactly
from me?
What he's there, right? Capella's not going to be bitching about. I need more shots. I need more touches.
I mean, it really sounds worse than it is, I guess.
What he's supposed to do, and he does it extremely well. I think
whatever.
John
He's a good guy, and he's
he was there before Trae.
Two
and so he's still
lost
for
kids
John, it's been
a giant city that neither of you really know.
I think they've always had a connection. I think they've battled like
it's
brothers.
Good to have another one of those people
unhappy with each
there,
other a lot of times. But I think they both.
So we're walking around the city,
and they know it, and they both
all of a sudden
so badly. So
it's raining, and we're in like a alley of some sort, and somebody from a balcony above us starts calling out, asking if we want to come up to this party they're having.
Right. But John Collins, man, they're not here without John Collins.
That's not what I wanted to do.
He made the biggest three of the game yesterday. I think they were.
It was inside, and it was not wet, so
either one or was
of course,
something would happen.
I got somebody else that I know, sort of. I'm not going to be
alone. How did they not win? Well, they didn't win because they can't shoot threes.
Always alone.
I mean, they shot 28% on uncontested.
So we go up to this apartment, and it's just like a little college party.
Middleton sucked too. That was the other reason.
Yeah,
probably 5 people that live there.
I really wonder where this
5
series
friends,
goes because
maybe 15 people total.
Really, a quarter
whatever goes into a college party.
Atlanta didn't seem like they could really find the right lineup.
Pretty much as soon as I walked in the door,
the last few years, the fact that
I
he's
get
out
hit
there,
with the first and like most powerful. I'm not in control.
And even Reddish, they had 3 different people. They would have much rather been playing in that spot.
And it's
seems like
basically what it sounds like.
Milwaukee probably has.
I am suddenly not in control.
Depending on what they get from PJ Tucker in a game, that they're really going to be able to use.
Mentally understand.
Atlanta might have 4.
Hey, you are in control. Nobody is controlling your
the role
legs
players
and
at some point are
arms
gonna have to come through.
actions.
But I can't believe this is the Eastern Finals.
But
it's really like this
that's
squad
like
of
an
awesome
intellectual
secrets.
thing, you know.
And, I
like
was
practically in practice,
kind of cranky old guy that works at the grocery store.
I'm not in control
kind of gruff.
in this
I walked
delusion.
in. I said, "Hey, how are you this morning?" Because I know he loves the NBA. I gave him a shot. He wasn't interested. And then I'm leaving. I'm going to my car, and he yells at me,
I'm gonna stop
"No
there
one's
real
watching
quick,
these
and then I
playoffs.
will.
They're horrible." And I turned around. And I said, "Well, why are you sad?" He goes, "No one's ever heard any of these
I will
guys."
come
I said,
back.
"Well, why don't you sit down and watch? You might change your mind." So I saw
give
him
me a
this
second,
morning,
okay?
and he's like.
So I'm at
I
the
love that kind of
park.
reporting, man. I mean, it's basically just the Heater's secret of
bird that has
period, right?
the
And like,
weird
if they get a chance
weird
to
walk.
include him in any trade package, they will. I mean, the question is like, if you're just announcing,
And this
that
was
he's
gonna be the
traded,
last
I guess
update,
it depends on what are you
but
including him? Are you
there's a
including him in a
lot of
superstar
people
deal, or are
here,
you
so-
trading
It's got to be
Tyler
Bam
Hero
too.
straight up for something?
No, it's got. If you want Lillard, it's got to be. I'm not even sure that's enough, but it's got to be Bam and Hero.
But how did that happen so fast?
So I'm going
if you
to,
go back 9 months to the finals. How are they already sick and tired of Tyler Hero that they're ready to include him in any trade?
We'll see. Hold on.
I've done inseparable. They were
It's
going to
weird
PSG
and it's
games
annoying
together. They are
and it's
not the same kind of
frustrating and
friends.
it's.
19 years old, Miami.
But I'm fine.
City
you know,
of Miami.
this is-
Fame at a young age. Swagger in the finals. It
can
is interesting
get
to
through
think
life
of the idea that James Harden
fine.
doesn't. They do when
in my
you
sleep,
don't
you
need
know,
to
like
do any reporting. Guys who is linked to the Heat because all of these guys end up getting linked to the Heat. Do you want him, Mike? Because there are some
traffic
there are
delusion,
some
animal
are
delusion,
saying
product placement
that
delusion.
Eric Spoelstra
I'm not in
can
control
fix
delusion.
all of that. That they can fix his shooting and everything.
And then obviously
Had contracts again. I don't know what you.
the
But let's
meditative
just say you just acquired
yo-yo
and
and
here with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler.
other
that's your
hobbies.
core. You got two guys that when you need them to step up offensively,
anything to
either shy away
keep
from the
my
moment
mind
or
off of
aggressive, or simply don't take the shot. And you got an aging Jimmy Butler,
other
who when
stuff.
people are saying, if you look at an untouchable player on the Miami Heat roster, it's Bam Adebayo. Jimmy
Honestly,
Butler,
I had an
because look at
ending
those
for
shooting
this,
splits. They keep tumbling down. He played for Tom Thibodeau.
but I can't.
I'd be really concerned about that. At the
I
same
can't
time,
remember what it
Kuwait tried
was.
to score on them. That's one of the more versatile defensive units. Ben Simmons is exactly, if you are a
I know what
believer
this
in quote Heat
will
culture, that's
look
what you do,
like
right?
to
You go and
or
grab the guy who's
seem
clearly
like
not being
to you,
maximized somewhere
but
else, right? Because basically,
it's
what
essentially
Heat culture
very,
is
very,
you can reclaim anyone,
very,
right? You can fix James Johnson. You can fix Hassan
very,
Whiteside. You can fix anyone. Fix Ben
thought
Simmons.
out.
But we couldn't even.
To Kendall Jenner.
So yeah, this is
James
very
Harden, strip club
planned
dalliances
and
or
organized
just
and
everything Tyler Hero.
Support for this podcast comes from AT&T. All right,
Almost.
so to stay connected,
Other than the
AT&T
stuff that
Business
just
has
has
the
fallen
wireless
into
plan your
place.
teams need. With mobile
Like,
hotspot
almost
data
every
up to
word
100
has been,
gigabytes, they can easily use their phones to connect tablets and laptops to the internet
Pre-planned,
from really virtually wherever work takes them,
decided,
giving them the power to boost productivity even on the go. Upgrade to AT&T
I won't say I'm
Business and get our best plan with
acting or have
5G
been
and
acting,
100 gigabytes
but
in mobile hotspot data. Visit
I won't say
att.com/business elite. Terms and conditions apply.
I've been
haven't,
remiss though, Billy,
if
because
that makes any sense.
the conversation of the day, and welcome back, Mike. I hope that you have properly annoyed the audience. I can't wait to get
So if I remember, but I guess my point is, all that said is still just an, like it was made in my head before it was made in actuality. So
no, we don't need to pace
sometimes,
ourselves because
you know,
Billy is right when he says,
I'll end up
I
with
believe
the
angrily, there are
ending,
too
for
many
example,
milks to choose from.
and then, you know, that's late at night, and I'm like, okay, that's the ending. Let me add that, and it'll be done.
What a mistake that was.
But then
I was doing this
get
low
there
fat. No, what
2
is
days
the,
later, and sometimes
It's
that
the milk,
ending is now
lactose-free
gone,
milk,
so.
right? Because my wife drinks lactose.
If and when I remember the ending that it was supposed to have, I will come back.
So we had to change the type of
and
milk that my wife was drinking because, as you know,
end it.
mother drinks the milk and then passes the milk to the babe. It's a whole thing, Dan. You'll learn one day.
So
anyways, she had to change the milk that she's doing. So then
going
we were trying to figure out, well, what type of milk should she drink now? So
stop
it's
this
almond vanilla milk.
one
and
more
it was
time.
soy milk.
Home beating the Hawks handily.
I was wondering, just
I never
do you think
did,
there are any more role players left in the NBA.
remember
who could
the
have a big night
ending
on the NBA in a playoff stage.
was supposed to have.
I feel like I need to go through like my fantasy team from 2015.
This is probably gonna be the last update.
Lift this team to the finals. It's
If I
wild.
use
It's funny
it
because like
Gelson's and saying
before I start, I just want to say I'm at that
right.
part
My dog and I were having a thorough
again,
conversation.
and
As a really
the bird
loves the
with the
Hawks, by
bad
the way.
leg
and
is
I was saying, so that meant that
like
the Bucks
right
were
here.
actually going to cruise and they were going to win, and that's what happened. Because
I felt like on the Giannis injury night,
pretty weird.
to me, I was like,
I
well,
mean, I
when
guess
you
this
get
is just
done
where he
being
lives.
shocked that your superstar player may have exploded his leg, but it's just being hyperextended.
Guard and Drew Holiday.
If you didn't get enough out of I'm not in control, then
they just like don't have their hands on the ball as much. And without him there last night, everything just
I
seemed
think his
easy.
wing
Like, they
is
just
like
ran
broken,
pick and
and
roll
that's why he was
with
walking
Lopez,
weird.
either of
His
those
one
guys,
wing
and
is
then
like
when Brooke was on
dragging
the
on the
short roll, he
ground.
found Bobby Portis, who for some reason I guess is just like Stephen Curry now.
That sucks.
And just the TNT crew.
So I
just
guess
was,
I've
like,
done my part. I guess is my point.
particular when it's okay
I
for
made
someone
it
not to be aggressive versus when they are aggressive, which spoke to
as
me
a
that,
meditative
like, nobody
thing.
knows what the fuck is happening with the Bucks, and
Put it
it's
out
like,
there,
this
and now
really
it's
looks
just a
like-
matter of you seeing it.
in Atlanta.
So I am gonna end this, but
I am just worried that
as
while what they did make
I
sense,
leave,
maybe it's a little
I
easier to figure
do
out.
want
Like, if
to
it's just,
try
like,
to
keep going into
hammer
pick and
home
roll,
one
make it simple,
last
like maybe the Hawkins game plan, and this is their counter to that
point.
right? They didn't-
So I think about, I'm sure you would have figured out by now,
Like you just wind up like, especially if Giannis doesn't play.
the Truman
maybe
Show,
Bud, who seems resistant
a lot.
to exploiting defensive matchups.
The movie.
Typical times with Giannis out there, maybe gets into it a little
At some
bit more.
point,
You know, it's funny with the Giannis thing. It kind of reminds me of like there are these points in the Sixers season when Embiid would miss time, and if Embiid was ever like a game time decision, and then
at some point
he's not going to play, there always
saw
it always felt like
or
there was
I've read
missing, you know, with the Sixers that
that
and they even played like it, like they almost played like
Truman Show
this
is
phantom limb or
now
something like that. Like we kind of keep looking for Embiid and he's not
an
there.
actual
Like, if Embiid was just, like, out,
diagnosable
I felt
disorder
like, and
or
Simmons play,
syndrome
like, I felt like the
or
Sixers
what have
actually
you.
were like, this is plan B. This is how we look
And
when Joel is just like
my assumption would
and
be
that's what I
that,
thought
you
the
know,
Bucks looked like last night. Like when Giannis
Truman
went
Show
down,
disorder,
oh shit,
you know,
like, what if he tore his knee? Like,
must have come after
everything we've been through. And then
the
when they're
Truman
like,
Show.
he's
You
gonna
know,
be fine
people
eventually.
see it and they're
Let's
like,
go out there and
hey,
take care of business.
it gets in their
felt
head
like a
and
different team. It felt like they had handbrake off a little bit. So it's been
but maybe
fascinating.
they just
You know,
added
Giannis'
it
injury really
after
is the
somebody,
latest in a long
you
line
know,
of
put
injuries
into
that kind of has defined this postseason. And it goes beyond
words
just one. It's
what
basically
people had
we got
already
through all of the series
dealt with
playoffs,
for
with the exception of
decades.
a couple of exceptions.
It seems
most
like
notably
once
the Hawks and
movies were
Knicks.
invented, once Hollywood
where
was
nobody
doing
really
its
got hurt,
thing,
everybody
it was
kinda
inevitable that
except for Julius Randle's psyche, yeah,
that's right.
you know, it would
That's exactly right. But
mess
if you
up
look at-
certain
if you
people
look at all the other series
this
in
way.
the playoffs, there is some sort of injury. It's just been,
If you
guys got
were
hurt.
to actually think
Completely
about it,
shaped playoffs.
it's
Now,
kind of like,
if I told you going into the postseason, everybody's healthy.
how many people
we're gonna
would
have
it
Suns
actually take to
I would be surprised.
Truman Show
but not shocked,
a single
right?
person,
Like,
right?
This is still an acceptable matchup of teams, I think.
Yeah, certainly. It's certainly.
And I just don't think that that number
we'll see
is
what we
as
can get
big as
of Giannis if
people
we do get to see him in
would
the finals if they advance.
expect.
I mean, not having the big raccoon
You know,
in there as well does.
so
Or do you think that there's something about?
give me
like,
a second.
product
I'll try to
you're
explain
watching
this a little
that's
better.
different than maybe
Superstar thing. I mean, last night's game was.
All right, so
I mean,
it's
there have
the
been
80s,
like
and you have
blowouts,
a,
especially
you know,
in the
eccentric
finals where it's almost like
billionaire
turn the lights
that
off after halftime.
is,
Like, there've been a few of those games I think that have had.
you know,
like effect on,
modern Nostradamus sees the way that the world is shrinking, sees the internet making, you know, everything global and weird and connected and always on, and he says, hey, I'm gonna run an experiment where I'm gonna take somebody from the time that they're born, and I'm going to
Trae Young,
control
I want to see that
their life.
with the biggest
Their life.
there. Like that is what we
lives, their
82
life.
games a month, a month building up to the point where like the regular season has almost become, especially this regular season, has become just.
I'm going to,
playoffs. Like guys just don't.
We're going to control where they live and
injury management,
where they go to school, and eventually where they live on their own and where they work.
More than they used to, so they're more just like trying stuff. The Bucks, prime example of that, like as opposed to
it's a competition. We're gonna
this one to, like,
pick somebody that's having a kid in the 80s, and that person is gonna win. And
it does feel like
if they make it, 40 years or however long, with this control mechanism that we put into place, then they will get the keys to the chocolate factory, so to speak.
The CP3 industrial complex was like the train had already left the station. Do you know what I mean? Like it arrived, and everybody was ready to
for whatever reason, my parents enter, and I win.
Talk to us about the years in the wilderness that you went through to get to this place.
It's all forgotten about because it's pre-internet basically, and
got a redemption moment. You know what I mean?
The kid isn't even born yet, and it's just like they hire the few hundred people at that point and start working on this project to control this person's life to see what happens.
Funeral speech about a guy who I guess was philandering.
It just wouldn't be, in my opinion, that unrealistic the way the last 35, 40 years has gone.
They won the Western Conference Finals. It was just like, hey, by the way.
I think that the same thing will happen.
Or like I said, aliens, if you have some hive mind,
MVP,
we have 80 trillion organisms and everything is utopian and there's no war and there's no worry of food or what have you, and we just need some way to
because we've lost so many of these players.
Live our lives, and for every
This episode is brought to you by Casper.
one person even on an Earth, a planet of billions of quote unquote intelligent creatures. Well, we got 10,000 in the hive mind for each one of you. It's all about energy and it's all about blah blah blah, and it's some weird competition among our 80 trillion alien hive mind beings to this is just our
Heineken loves a natural pod because Heineken is made from 100% natural ingredients. With premium most buy Heineken, come with the dad bod, or come with the 6-pack, whatever you want. My favorite memory of drinking Heineken. Probably good fun. Heineken's the way. Pick up a pack.
To be honest,
Back in the summer. Must be 21 years of age to purchase. Please drink responsibly.
The Green Room, the new app for live conversations.
I don't know. I think you get the point.
Covering music, sports, or culture, all in real time.
But I also write a lot of notes, so I might have something in there that I need to include in this prologue or whatever. So I'll be back.
You're not really thinking about,
nope, that was pretty much it.
This guy, and this guy, there's not enough ball.
Ultimately, I understand, like I've said many times, that it is just delusional.
It gets a little tricky.
Yeah, but if I'm being tactical, like maybe I wait on that.
Whether it's, like I said, just mental illness or, mistreatment of my body and mind as
I'm gonna go Chris Paul.
college-age kid.
I also, one of the big things I think we should talk about is like how much
I started going to the doctor last year. I finally gave in and decided to try the medication route, and he says that there's probably some sort of PTSD involved, which obviously to have a post you need a you need a trauma, so
everything you would, but he's typically like setting people up, making sure Devin Booker is being aggressive. And all of a sudden, like, he takes over the game. He ends up with 41 points.
Definitely feels like something is wrong.
Patrick Beverly on tilt to the point where he's ejected.
So
it's like interesting that like
This will be probably the final. Let's see if I can get real quick.
And a player that is rising amidst the chaos is a guy who, one, is the best mid-range shooter in the NBA. Kirk Goldsberry had a good piece on this.
I think he's gonna get away. He's gonna get behind this car before. Oh no, he just wants to drink some water.
At least, and he's just like he's making something out of nothing. And I think it's appropriate that he is
that guy, right?
MVP of this particular postseason. Yeah, he. So I just walked away. About the Suns for a while. When you watch them, the word that always comes to mind the Suns is platonic. Like
if he pops back up,
to me is like the platonic idea.
I'll show you his weird walk and
today and
broken
also,
wing.
Argue it would have been the same maybe like 15, 20 years ago.
It is weird to me that he just hangs out this one part of the park, you know.
Two prototype.
So the bird did walk back across the broken wing weird walk guy, but then I just saw him when he was already back in the park. He is right behind that tree.
And it's been debated, it's already been dissected to death, but that Clippers cut it to 7.
Oh, there he comes.
In game 6.
I don't know if you can see
and Chris
him.
Paul is just like, nope, we are not going to get into trading body blows with these guys.
Trying to get you outside real quick.
I guess my only counter would be Davis too much time in these playoffs, even though he's still in the playoffs.
That's him in the bottom left.
I mean, I'm kind of giving him a pass.
There's a little bit of a dip, so you can't really see his walk.
Did you watch after they won the game the other night, and he was just like,
or his broken wing,
who he was touching and like going into the stands?
But here he comes.
I have now officially gotten to the point where I don't understand why some guys are wearing masks, some guys aren't.
He doesn't really want to show.
Some guys are
apparently
random fans.
His
some guys seem to be like off by
broken wing. I think it's the other side. You can kind of see it hanging down there.
Coaches are wearing masks. Just aren't like. And then even have you been to a game in the last couple of weeks? So it's like it also seems like we've gotten kind of to that like just below my nose or hanging off my chin area. Right.
All right. Well, I'm done.
Is it okay? Yeah, because Dodger Stadium, like I went the other week and Dodger Stadium was obviously outdoors, masks off, but yeah, it's.
Sorry, I didn't even know this thing zoomed in that far.
I still don't really.
That was way too close.
All
right, I'm done. I'm gonna go.
Someone he know had COVID, so he was.
Have a good one.
There seems to be a consensus that he did have COVID. I can't.
Testing. Put it all together, motherfucker. I'm arresting. What the fuck you mean? Testing. Put it all together, motherfucker. I'm arresting. What the fuck you mean? I know, Loki. I know. I don't know what you want. Do you want some food? Loki? Okay. Testing. That's a good question. Well, it's 40 seconds from the start of Orson Welles' F for Fake.